All right, a Tuesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. The Drake heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. Jam-packed show. An hour from now, we'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. Their first press conference, first practice getting underway right now. About an hour ago, they got out to the field, got on the field practicing. Bigger news from the practice today is that starting at left tackle is one Josh Simmons. Starting at right tackle is Jalen Moore. That is pretty big news. What I would expect, because I don't think the Chiefs want to have Jalen Moore or at least Josh Simmons go left tackle, right tackle, and float back and forth. I would be really surprised if Josh Simmons is a guy that takes any reps at right tackle. Maybe he's taking reps right now at right tackle, but I would be surprised if that was the case for a guy coming off of injury. You drafted him in the first round. Jalen Moore is a guy that has played some right tackle, moved around as a backup there in San Francisco. So with Jawaan Taylor on the PUP list, it makes sense that Jalen Moore is on the right side, gives the Chiefs an opportunity, even more time to look at Josh Simmons. Now, if Jawaan Taylor were healthy, who would be starting with the ones on day one at camp at left tackle? Don't know. Maybe it's Jalen Moore. Maybe it's still Josh Simmons. Either way, Josh Simmons getting the first reps for the first team at practice today there in St. Joe. Any other updates as they roll along and come into the show, we will pass those along. We will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. As I said, Andy Reid coming up an hour from now. Patrick Mahomes around 11 o'clock. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Trey Smith, and George Karlaftis. We will hear from them coming up around 11 o'clock whenever practice ends. So that time will float a little before 11 o'clock, maybe after 11 o'clock. We'll figure out what time that we'll hear from them. But when they are talking, we will play that press conference for you. We'll talk with Ted Nguyen from The Athletic, senior NFL writer for The Athletic late last week. He had a story, a piece that he put together at The Athletic about the Chiefs' return of the explosive play. We know it wasn't there last year. We know it has been something that has slowly diminished over the last few years, from the number one offense in the league against the Philadelphia Eagles to then what happened against the season in which they beat the San Francisco 49ers in 2023, and then, of course, what happened last year in that regression of the big plays, those chunk plays, explosive plays for the Chiefs that weren't there. We'll talk with Ted Nguyen coming up at noon from The Athletic. He's got his story on the Chiefs and return to getting back to those explosive plays. Can it happen? Very interesting, specific play that he looked at in the Super Bowl. And no, it was not Xavier Worthy's long touchdown at the end of the game. It was not that. In fact, it was a play that will just go down in the overall general feel of the Super Bowl and the many, many, many times Patrick Mahomes was sacked, and the many, many, many more times Patrick Mahomes was pressured, but on a 2nd and 11, I think it was, because first down, Mahomes got sacked. So 2nd and 11, Mahomes ends up getting sacked. But what's lost in that, and the play that he looked at, was the Eagles playing quarters and the Chiefs' play design so perfect. Xavier Worthy is just running down the field, running at, let's say, his 11 o'clock, lining up on the right side of the offensive line, and the right side of the offense, close to the line, and running an over route to a degree, but just running at his 11 o'clock, just straight down the field, splitting the safeties. The safety that would be to his left stops and comes up to attack a dig route or a quick out. And the safety to his right is toast. There's no way he can get there. It's a touchdown. The problem is, by the time Xavier Worthy gets past the linebacker to even be cleared up in space, Mahomes has already tucked the ball, and he is ducking from the rush from Jalen Carter in the middle and from Josh Sweat that got the sack on the right side. Oddly enough, Josh Sweat got freed up because Pacheco came and chipped on Josh Sweat. Sweat was working to the outside of Juwan Taylor. Juwan Taylor was in his drop back. Pacheco chucks Josh Sweat and almost creates like a game defensive tackle, defensive end. And Josh Sweat comes free and sacks Patrick Mahomes. And that's unfortunate because if you talk about play design, that's a touchdown. Didn't happen because he wasn't protected. So the dominance of the Eagles in the Super Bowl, a couple of plays can make a difference here and there. Certainly right before halftime, down 24-0, the play to DeAndre Hopkins that he drops, that could have been a touchdown. And then that was the first possession out of halftime in which that play to Xavier Worthy was a seam route wide open. No time to throw. Now, I will also say, when we look at stuff that's on the offensive line and stuff that's on Patrick Mahomes and where the improvement can come from number 15 this year, because everybody can improve, and Patrick Mahomes has talked about what he needs to improve on. Matt Nagy's talked about what he needs to improve on. I think Patrick Mahomes 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think Patrick Mahomes probably gains depth in that drop back and keeps fading back and back and back and then throws it to Xavier Worthy. This play, Mahomes got to his back step, did not trust that the pressure from the left side in which Joe Thuney was protecting him was going to hold up because he started to work to Joe Thuney's outside shoulder, working up the field, which I think immediately Mahomes is saying, I'm not gaining depth because then I'm going to drop back right into a sack. So now I have to step up, and as soon as I step up, now Josh Sweat is coming around because he's been chipped by Pacheco, and he was knocked off Juwan Taylor's block, which freed him up. And now as I step up, there's somebody in my face. I'm tucking it. Maybe if Josh Sweat stays with Juwan Taylor and Pacheco doesn't chip him, maybe Patrick Mahomes stays in the pocket a little bit longer. But I think it's one of those that back in the day when he trusted his tackles, he would have gained depth like he did with, do we have time to run Wasp? Because he had to fade back and fade back and fade back and fade back, and then he threw the ball. That wasn't the case on this particular play. So thought that was interesting that that play specifically was brought up by somebody that does not cover the Chiefs. A senior NFL writer at The Athletic. So we'll talk with him. And then Todd Lebo will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. Now, we said we'll talk to the Chiefs coming up, or hear from the Chiefs coming up at 11 o'clock with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Trey Smith and George Karlaftis. But what was also kind of expected and planned for just a little bit is the fact that these first practices typically are quicker ones. They don't go the full time till like 10:45 or 11 o'clock. So what we're told is that the Chiefs are still on the field right now. The media's in the tent, and we are going to have Andy Reid here very soon. So we'll have Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Trey Smith, and George Karlaftis when they get to the podium. Now, we were going to play some clips from Mark Donovan in his press conference this morning because I think there was a lot of ground covered by Mark Donovan. We'll play those coming up at 11 o'clock. In the 11 o'clock hour, we'll look back and talk about some of the things that Mark Donovan said, some things that I thought really stood out from Mark Donovan. We were going to play those here. And then at 11 o'clock, hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll just flip those things, and we'll hear from Andy Reid here coming up pretty soon. Do want to let you know that our coverage presented by Greengrass Cattle Company. Make sure to stop into Greengrass Cattle Company on your way to St. Joe for their new training camp bundle. You can also order online at greengrasscattle.com.
It's also brought to you by Easton Roofing. Make sure to visit them at eastonroofing.com for commercial or residential roofing needs. Easton Roofing is where integrity matters. And I am hearing the tent up there. We'll be checking in with Andy Reid here very shortly.
Okay.
Or as my mother, who grew up in a very small town, says, shartly.
I don't know what's going on. Who knows what he had for breakfast? Maybe that's why they ended practice early. You know what, guys? It's over. I know we planned for another 3 or 4 segments here, but get off the field right now. Get off the field. I'm going to go do this media obligation real quick, and he'll be asked about Josh Simmons. He'll be asked about Jalen Moore, what that number 1 offensive line group looked like. And I again, I don't know that Andy Reid would even give us the answer. if Jawan Taylor was healthy, would it be Josh Simmons or would it be Jalen Moore? But it's Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia lining up on the left side. That is what I think the offensive line will look like in Brazil against the Chargers, assuming health. We'll find out.
And that still sounds weird, by the way, against the Chargers in Brazil.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, more of a home game for the Chargers maybe in Brazil than it would be in L.A. I don't know. Chargers have to go to Brazil to get more of a home atmosphere. And we'll see who's playing right tackle if it's Jalen Moore. But there's a number of clips out there. Matt Derrick, Steven St. John covering practice there in St. Joe of different plays where you can see, you know, Mahomes to Rashee Rice, Mahomes to Noah Gray, Mahomes to Rashee Rice, Mahomes to Rashee Rice, Mahomes to number 4, last name Rice. There's another clip out there of Mahomes throwing the ball to, gosh, who was that? Number 4, Rashee Rice. Interesting. Maybe first practice is a lot like how the first 3 games were going last year. Last year's practice was force the ball downfield through training camp. So far, this one is just throw the ball to Rice. You know, let's get him as much work as possible because he probably won't be there the first month.
And that leg is looking okay.
Leg looks just fine. Unfortunately for Dr. David Chow, the guy that has the Pro Football Doc podcast, he used to work for the Chargers, that got tricked by a video of Elijah Moore in which somebody tweeted out. It was a video of Elijah Moore cutting and running routes, and somebody tweeted out, Rashee Rice looks good, as a joke. And David Chow, Pro Football Doc podcast, quote tweeted and said, quote, Rashee Rice is a great athlete. He's far from healthy here. You can clearly see he's favoring his right knee. Doesn't mean he can't play. I know some will disagree and many will ask me to explain, but too many little things I'll explain next on Pro Football Doc podcast. It was Elijah Moore who famously has not torn an ACL, who famously was healthy all of last year, who famously is not coming back into rehab, is just training for the season. And David Chow, he's clearly favoring his right knee that he had surgery on. I'll explain. Except for the fact that it was not Rashee Rice.
Well, he does have some explaining to do.
That is true. It looked nothing like Rashee Rice. In the video, they yell Elijah during the route. And 3, the video is actually specifically from Elijah Moore. Other than that, but you're right. Rashee Rice looks healthy and looks good to go. So that's certainly a positive for what this team can be. And look, if we talk about big plays, we'll talk with Ted Wynn coming up at noon. Again, wrote that piece at The Athletic. If we talk about big plays for the Chiefs, I think part of it is Rashee Rice in being a guy that is reliable underneath, working with Travis Kelce. Reliability underneath and the intermediate areas. Hollywood Brown being a really good route runner, again, assuming health. And Xavier Worthy hitting him over the top. Because, again, that specific play in the Super Bowl, the Eagles' defense was playing quarters, playing back, and letting the defensive line get to Patrick Mahomes. It's pretty easy to play defense when you just bring 4 and drop 7, and they're all in wide zones and keeping everything in front of them, and you're still getting pressure under 2.5 seconds on Mahomes. But the specific play design was a touchdown. But it just wasn't a touchdown because he didn't have time to throw. And that's why it's so significant as to one of the biggest rookie impacts this year could be the man who's lining up with the first team today at the first training camp practice in Josh Simmons at left tackle. To me, it's a pretty big deal that he's there. And I think there's a level of excitement around town for Josh Simmons, as there should be. And we'll see what Jalen Moore looks like on the right side as well. But we'll hear from Andy Reid here coming up in just a little bit. I also should point out Pete Sweeney, friend of the station, 30 minutes ago. Said first team, Chiefs running Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson on the outside with Shamari Connor inside in the slot. I'm going to hold off on my frustration with that because Christian Fulton's on the PUP list. If Fulton was not on the PUP list, and that's the first reps out there, again, this is all overreaction to the first 10 minutes of them on the field, right? Because I really want Trent McDuffie to be in the slot this year. If Christian Fulton's healthy, maybe it's Fulton and Jalen Watson. But I don't want Shamari Connor as a slot cornerback because he struggled with that last year. And I want McDuffie and Christian Fulton on the outside. But again, Christian Fulton's on the PUP list, so he can't be out there playing on the outside opposite Jalen Watson. The Royals tonight take on the Chicago Cubs in Game 2 of the series. They got the win last night. They scored a bunch of runs. They scored so many runs, the Chicago Cubs used a position player as a pitcher. It's not something I thought the Royals would ever force a team to do, is use a position player, unless they were up like the other team was up like 18-2 or something like that. Then maybe they use a position player. But force them to use a position player because it was a laugher because the Royals were scoring so many runs. Unfortunately, there's a feeling for me of it's not even too little too late because it wasn't too little. To me, it's just too late. Like, they are still 4.5 games out of the wild card. They are still 5 games or 5 teams behind. And a week from tomorrow is the trade deadline. You can't be making rest of season / next couple of year decisions based on what the team does over a week. Because, again, if you're going to do that, you can say, well, this is the team that went 17-4. Why would you sell? This team went 17-4. There's no reason to sell right now. It is a matter of the timing of that, because if they were on a 17-4 stretch right now to get to 3 games under 500, I think there would be a full-on, full-court press to buy because them being one of the hotter teams in baseball. But that's not the case. That was earlier this year. That's a long time ago. Credit Noah Cameron for coming out and doing what he did after giving up the 4 runs, to stay in there, to buckle down, to get the consecutive outs. John Rave, a storybook dream swing for a kid that grew up going to Wrigley, for a kid whose dad was a diehard Cubs fan. And he goes out there and hits that home run at Wrigley last night. That was awesome. Salvi continues his hot stretch. Cags hit a home run the other way. The Royals did some awesome things last night. Hitting the ball out of the park helps. They haven't been doing that this year. But, man, this has to be the 20th time maybe that we've talked about one game where they've swung the bats well and we thought, is this a turnaround? You know, have they turned a corner? Is this a point in the season where now the offense is going to look like last year?
I was more excited that they were successfully pushing things on the bases and getting good results and not being toot bland.
Yeah, and they were forcing the issue. I mean, the Chicago Cubs did not look like in the 5th inning when the Royals scored 4 runs. They did not look like one of the best teams in the National League and leading the Central when they were having a snowball fight with the ball throwing all over the field. You know, errors, pass balls, guys moving up an extra base, Bobby Witt stealing, ball goes out to center, somebody scores, pass ball, somebody scores, error. You know, that did not look like a crisp and clean National League leading team. They looked like a team that the Royals, you know, should put 12 runs on. And they did. But it was also a bullpen game. Tonight they've got Matthew Boyd out there, who's got a 2.3 ERA and is already at double-digit wins on the season. And Rich Hill's going to the mound tonight. Dick Mountain's going to the mound tonight for the Royals. I know you were listening to The Tent at the same time, Drake, but do you know where you were on June 15th, 2005?
I was working here.
Yeah. June 15th, 2005. I was working here. I was a couple of months away from moving to August 1st is when I moved to Wyoming. So I was I was pretty close. So I was like a couple of weeks, not months, a couple of weeks away from moving to Wyoming. At this point, I was already making plans of where I was how I was going to get there, where I was going to stay, what I was going to be doing when I got to Wyoming August 1st. Gillette, Wyoming. Spent 2 years in Wyoming for 3 months of my life. So that was an interesting experience. June 15th, 2005, Rich Hill made his major league debut.
Is that before Matthew Boyd was born?
Boy, that's a great question. I don't know. I
doubt it.
That would make Matthew Boyd only 20. But there are 39 players in Major League Baseball that were born after Rich Hill was drafted in 2002. There are 39 players playing that after Rich Hill was drafted, they were born. But 2005, and by the way, his first Major League start was July 25th at Wrigley, 2005. It's 3 days away from being 20 years to the date of his first game ever starting being in Wrigley, and now he's returning to the mound in Wrigley, playing for his 7th team since turning 40 years old. Since he turned 40, he's on his 7th team since turning 40 years old.
There was some crazy statistic that, like, Jamie Moyer had faced 12% of all major leaguers every time. I wonder if Rich Hill's getting close to that.
I would think, man. That's credit the Royals at KCRoyals.com. They've put together 11 fun facts of Rich Hill as he gets set to make his Royals debut. 14th franchise, tying a Major League Baseball record. Edwin Jackson. Octavio Dotel with 13. Rich Hill with 13 until he pitches tonight, and it'll be 14. It'll be the 7th team that he's played for at age 40 or older. He will be 45 years, 133 days today. They drafted him in 2002. 39 players. That's what it. 39 players who have appeared in at least one Major League Baseball game in 2025 were born after that draft, after he was drafted in 2002. Hill made his Major League debut on June 15th, 2005 at age 25. The youngest big leaguer to appear in a game this season, Braves pitcher Didier Fuentes, was born on June 19th, 2005. 4 days after Rich Hill made his debut. There's a player that has played in Major League Baseball this year that was born after Rich Hill's Major League debut. Rich Hill was the second reliever in that game following Greg Maddux. He faced Luis Castillo, Miguel Cabrera, Carlos Delgado, Mike Lowell, Paul LaDuca, and Juan Encarnacion. That's who Rich Hill went up against in his Major League debut. That's amazing. 4,846 Major League players have made their debuts since Hill's debut. And Jamie Moore, you mentioned that. He's the oldest pitcher to start for an MLB team since Jamie Moore's final game in 2012 at 49 years old.
It was also kind of a soft toss and left.
Yeah, little thumber. The 18th pitcher to start a game at age 45 or older, and the 6th in the 21st century. Ooh, Sports or Leisure coming up on Thursday. Jamie Moyer, Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, Tim Wakefield, and Bartolo Colon all started a game after age 45. And the oldest player since Gaylord Perry for the Royals to pitch in a game.
Bartolo Colon was like a month older than me, so as long as he was pitching, I felt like I
still young.
had some kind of a chance. Somebody find me and
you
can throw 42 miles an hour. Let's get you out there.
Rich Hill is 45 in 133 days, and I'm 45 in 28 days. So, yeah, there you go. There is somebody still pitching that is older than me. I'm still young. Still young. It's all good.
You could still make your debut.
See, there you go. I still got a chance. They'll make a movie about it. I never touched 100 at any time in my life, so getting back to that would be impossible. Yeah. So there you go. Rich Hill on the mound tonight for the Royals, and he will make his Royals debut. I also thought it was interesting, too, is we'll hear from Andy Reid here very soon, and Patrick Mahomes and Trey Smith and George Karlaftis. It's a fun podium day today, by the way. Major League Baseball, MLB.com, less than a week after they put out their top 5 of voters, they now have the dark horse for Rookie of the Year being Noah Cameron, oddly enough. Andy Reid is heading to the tent and is getting ready to start addressing the media. They're in St. Joe, day 1 of Chiefs training camp, on the road to winning the Super Bowl this year starts today. Day one. Super Bowls, championships start in St. Joe. It's one of the oldest sayings in the book. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you head to St. Joe.
As far as injuries go, the guys that didn't practice today were Fulton, Taylor, and Watson. So everybody else practiced. The same guys I mentioned yesterday that are on PUP, they didn't practice today. Other than that, it was great to get the guys back out here.
All right, so we'll hear Andy Reid. Good to get the guys out there. We just wanted to hear the injuries, PUP list. Get those guys the update of what we had given you as well. Addressing the big media there in St. Joe. And when we get connected there, we will head back to St. Joe to hear from Andy Reid talking about practice number one. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes as well. Certainly want to get connected for Patrick Mahomes. Trey Smith, after signing that new deal 1 week ago today, newly minted 1 week. He's been the highest paid guard in football. And George Karlaftis signing his big deal a couple of days ago, getting that done before training camp. We'll see if Trent McDuffie's going to be on the way, if he will be somebody that gets his big deal. I certainly think there's a chance that he gets signed before the season starts. We'll see if he does that. Not sure. But Andy Reid addressing the media. We said earlier as we started the show, one of the things that came out from today was right out of the gates, starting at left tackle was Josh Simmons. Starting at right tackle, Jalen Moore. Starting at left guard was Kingsley Suamataia. And then, of course, Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. So you've got two guys starting practice number one.
Kelsey's last training camp.
Here's Andy Reid.
Tell us a little bit about what he's meant to you as a coach and to this organization.
He's phenomenal. I mean, he's been great for this organization. Anytime you're with a guy for 13 years, you end up being close to that player. And so I've watched him grow as a player, as a man. We haven't talked about last year's in that, so you hope he plays forever, but that's probably not going to happen to any of us. So whenever he decides to hang it up, he's built a great legacy and here, and if he decides this is it, it's it. If not, more power to him.
Okay, guys. Thanks, Coach.
All right, good.
Coach Andy.
Great stuff from Andy Reid. Really appreciated all of the things he brought us there, the injuries, and what we learned from that is that he has not talked with Travis Kelce if this is his last year or not. So there you go. Got that from Andy Reid. Obviously, when we get the Andy Reid sound, we'll play it back for you, and at least some clips when we have that. But we will hear from Patrick Mahomes here very soon.
Live radio is fun.
It's it's great. You just gotta you gotta adjust. You gotta call an audible. The defense lined up in a way that we didn't expect that to happen. It was an unscouted look, Drake. Unscouted looks, you got to be prepared for them. And we went with the audible, and eventually we got the Andy Reid play. And we heard that he has not had a conversation about Travis Kelce, if this is his last training camp or not. And also Andy Reid saying, quote, "I hope he plays forever." That would be a record. Rich Hill is saying that it's possible. He's on the mound tonight. And Travis Kelce spending a year and a month of his life in St. Joe now. He would have spent a year and a month of his life combined in St. Joe. It's interesting. I spent a full semester in St. Joe living there when I went to Mo West. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back. And there is a little delay between Reid and Mahomes. So when we come back, we'll hear from Patrick Mahomes, George Karlaftis, and Trey Smith. More Zone next. Oh, nothing like a little football to get the testosterone charged up, right? If you don't have that, Heartland Men's Health can help you. If football isn't the natural antidote, if you are suffering from low testosterone. Guys in their early to mid-30s start losing 2 to 3% of their testosterone production every year. Happens gradually. Before you know it, you don't feel like the same man that you did in your 20s or 30s. That's what was happening with me. Did not have the same energy levels. Didn't even have motivation to go to the gym. And when I went to the gym, I wasn't really seeing much of a result, because I really didn't go that often. Production at work, some would argue if it was declining or not, I don't know. But I know brain fog was a big thing that I was dealing with, and that has gone away. The energy levels are back, and that's because of Heartland Men's Health. What you want to do is schedule a consult with Heartland Men's Health. If you have questions about your testosterone level, they'll do your lab work, have your results within 30 minutes. A licensed medical provider will review your results with you, discuss your options, and help you make the decision together with the medical team. Cost of the appointment is $99. That includes medical consult, T, and that PSA test. And if you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Heartland Men's Health, successfully treating men in the Kansas City area. 3 locations to serve you: Overland Park, Independence between Blue Springs and Lee Summit, and North Kansas City. Call them today, 844-447-6600. Tell them you heard about it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. That's 844-447-6600, or visit heartlandmenshealth.com. heading up to St. Joe. Let's hear from Patrick Mahomes at the podium.
I think he's done a great job. You see the talent, obviously. You see the physical ability. But I think more than that, the way he's worked, I've just got to see him working through the rest of his rehab process and then working on the field. He's done a great job with that, and then learning. He's getting tested every single day with Spags and being able to pick up blitzes and do a lot of different type of stuff, as well as go against some great pass rushers. So I'm excited for the future that he has.
Rookie or veteran, just as long as he's new here, what kind of communication do you have?
Yeah, a lot. That's why we sit in the film room and we talk through these things. I'm talking to that whole line, and we have to all be on the same page. And I think it's going to help him a lot that Creed's there and Trey and some of these veteran guys that know kind of how I talk and what I mean when I say stuff, as well as just us meeting together and having that communication. And I got to say, every training camp, the best test you're going to get is against Spags. So going up against him, seeing those blitzes, communicating, that's going to help us a lot as we get to the season.
How excited were you to see Trey and George sign long-term deals with the Chiefs?
I'm extremely excited. More than the player, the people that they are. Y'all know Trey, y'all know George. Come to work every single day, attack the day, great teammates, great people in the community, and that's what you want on your team. And so we've built a great culture here, and to have guys like that get rewarded for how they play, but also the people that they are, it's a great feeling, and it keeps guys wanting to come out there and being the best every single day.
You guys have said you want to throw the ball downfield. How good does it feel to hit Worthy on the very first play downfield?
Yeah, for sure. That's what we got to do. We got to keep doing it, though, and we got great corners, so it's going to be a lot of challenges for us. But even on some of those that we throw incomplete, that we're throwing it down the field, we can talk through those routes and talk through that stuff. And so that's the mindset, is getting back to throwing the ball down the field. And then if we can do that, it'll open up the rest of the offense.
Is there anything, now that you have received for the full training camp meeting, that you want to get out of your two connections, given just how much time he missed last year?
Yeah, you saw it at the beginning of last year with him being in the full training camp, and another year of us and our communication. And it was going off to a very hot start, but he attacked the rehab process now and has came back ready to go. And so had a good first day today. We'll continue to work, continue to get better and better, and he'll evolve his game to be even better than he was at the beginning of last year.
Just coming back to St. Joe and just getting these guys acclimated, what's the message for you guys, and for all the guys, new guys, and even some of the returners, that just to make sure you're back on the right track?
Yeah, I think it's just every year resets, and we talk about that after we win, we talk about that after we lose. And so it's starting from day one. How can you attack this day to be better than you were the day before? And that's not only on the practice field, that's in the meeting rooms, and that's how you recover and get yourself ready to go. And so we know we have one of the hardest training camps out there, but it's for a reason. And so how can you attack it every day, not have those down days, but have a lot of just building and building, and that'll prepare us for the next day, and it'll prepare us for the end of the season.
How last year went? How do you feel this year? What is this year going to mean to Hollywood Brown, and maybe what he can mean for your offense?
Yeah, you could see at the beginning in training camp last year and in that first play of the preseason, he's going to be someone that's going to make plays for us. And so we'll just continue to evolve. And even though he wasn't playing, he was in those meeting rooms last year, so he has an understanding for kind of how we do things. And then at the end of last year, kind of getting thrown in, he made some plays and did some stuff in a very hard situation. And so I'm excited for him. I'm excited for that whole room, man. It's a lot of talented guys, but they all, you can tell, truly care about each other and want each other to succeed. And so they want to go out there and prove themselves as much as I want to go out there and prove myself and the rest of this team. And so I'm excited for that whole group getting to showcase who they can really be.
And knowing that he might be out at the beginning of the season, and you don't know how long or if he's going to be out, what are you trying to get accomplished to make sure that when if he does get suspended, comes back, he's ready to go? Yeah,
I think we just come out here and practice hard every day. You can't worry about stuff that's going to happen down the line. You worry about how can you get better this day, how can you get better the next day, and that's how we go about our mindset regardless. And so all that stuff it will handle itself, and I'm sure the coaches can speak more to it. But at the end of the day, we're going to go out there and attack the practice and attack the day so that we're prepared to play that next day.
Patrick, what ways did the Super Bowl kind of maintain in your off-season motivation? Was it front and center the way it ended?
Yeah, obviously we didn't play the way we wanted to play, and on a national stage, a worldwide stage, and you want to go out there and be better, and so that kind of helps you out on some of those extra workouts that you don't want to do, or some of the different stuff that in order to get better for that next season. It kind of keeps that in your mind. But now we're here. We're here. You can start over. How can I get better for my teammates? How can I get better for the guy beside me? And going out there and attacking so that we can find a way to win that last game and not lose it.
This is a little related to the question Harold asked, but did you speak directly to the team with any message of your own, or just something you're going to pass it along day to day?
I think enough was really spoken after that game. But I think when you got back to OTAs and back to minicamp and stuff like that, I think the guys had that mindset. You could tell the pep in their step, and just from the little talks that guys had throughout the team. And so I don't think nothing really needs to be said when you get beat like that. Everybody knows that we got to be better, and so we're going to try to attack that and be even better this year.
Patrick, we asked Andy earlier what his overall message was from yesterday, and he said, it's to keep the urgency up. When you hear that, what do you interpret it as?
Yeah, I think you always have to get better. I think that's something that people lose track of when you have success. And obviously, we didn't win that last game, but we had a lot of success last year. And I think sometimes people want to be stagnant and they want to go out there and just do it over again. But you see with the rest of the AFC West, the rest of the AFC, and the NFL is everybody's getting better. So we have to get better. And so that's about keeping urgency and practice, competing, going at it. You want to be competitive, but you want to get better together. And that's something that we've always done, but we're going to try to take that even to a new level this next year.
Every year it seems like NFL prognosticators try to find ways to doubt this team or doubt you. How much does that motivate you or even piss you off that there's people out there that still want to try to say this team's not building a dynasty or want to talk about what happened in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I said it in an interview a couple weeks ago.
The moment I loved our Subaru Outback most.
Do you really love it, though? That's the question, is how much you actually love it. Patrick Mahomes there talking about the predictions. And okay, here's Patrick.
Came after that. And then, like I said, you try to end the year with a win, and that's our goal. Last one right there.
How can you define getting better from what we saw last year?
Yeah, I think for me, I got to be better at throwing the ball down the field. Obviously, that we weren't good enough there. We've had success in prior years, but these last few years we haven't done that. And in order for our offense to be great, you have to be able to complete those passes. It opens up everything else. And so if teams are going to challenge us at the line of scrimmage, if teams are going to challenge us to throw the ball deep, we have to show that we can do that. And if we can do that, it first starts with me and giving guys chances. But if we can do that, I think it's going to really open up the offense and make us a better team in general. Thanks, Patrick.
All right, there's Patrick Mahomes. He's talked about it throughout the offseason, OTAs, minicamp, and I think it'll be a theme of this training camp, although it was a theme of last year's training camp too, about throwing the ball down the field, throw the ball down the field, throw the ball down the field. No matter what, just throw the ball down the field. Even if it's incomplete, throw the ball down the field, and we never saw that this year. Now, offensive line issues were a big reason. If the offensive line holds up, I think certainly it could be different this year. But Patrick Mahomes continues to say that, quote, I have to be better. He said that after the Super Bowl. He said that in mini camps and OTAs, that when it comes to throwing the ball down the field, I have to be better. It's on me. It first starts with me. We'll hear from George Karlaftis. We'll hear from Trey Smith coming up in a little bit. They are signing some autographs. We are going to take a break. More Zone next. All right, Tuesday edition of The Zone. Coming up at noon, we'll talk with Ted Wynn, the Athletic senior NFL writer. Right now, George Karlaftis, newly minted, lots of money, millionaire George Karlaftis at the podium.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain. Can't complain.
When did you first start to believe that it was close to happening with the contract extension? What's the process been like the last couple of weeks?
It was awesome. I mean, these guys were, sorry about this. I'm gonna take these off real quick so I can be. It was a great process. Very respectful. I feel like on both sides, and it went good. I knew some was probably going to be done before camp, and I'm glad it did, and I'm happy to be here for another how many years. So.
How much of this was you wanting to be here and you telling your representation, get this done because I want to stay in Kansas City?
Yeah, I think it was mutual. So it was awesome. I've been vocal about how much I love it here, and I want to be here, and I'm going to be. So.
What do you love about it here?
For me, really, it starts with the team. The team, Coach Reed, the guys on the team, the locker room, everything about this organization from the top down, really, just amazing. No place I'd rather be, really. And then the city. My fiance and I have grown to love this place, calling it home now, and it's awesome.
Means have your fiance and you brought your dog to
That was a non-negotiable. That was part of the. Yeah, it was awesome. It's just us three right now, a little family. But it was awesome. We knew we had to put them in the little polo, which is cool. So yeah, I'm happy they were there with me on that big moment. Chris,
Big money George, man.
No, please don't call me that.
Has Chris called you G Money now?
He's called me just about everything. So.
George, when you went last season, is there anything that you really felt at the end of last year that you felt like was kind of clicking for you and building block into this year?
I mean, we wanted to, as a team, speaking for everybody, we wanted to finish better. That goes obviously to the Super Bowl. We just wanted to finish our season better. So I think a lot of this offseason is going to be about finishing out games and just, we're really close to what we wanted to get. We obviously didn't. And, it's going to be a motivator for this upcoming season. So.
Last one in the back.
George, so Jelani mentioned that he thinks of you as a mentor type role. Could you speak on that mentorship that you have with Jelani now?
I was extremely fortunate. Most of you probably remember me. 3 years ago, probably around today, I had a guy called Frank Clark, and he was out here with me every single day after practice. And I've been fortunate enough to know Ashton, for a couple of years now, and working with him and trying to pass down the torch. Kind of like Frank did me, Carlos, Chris, all those guys that I had my rookie year, and that's really what it's about. Figuring it out as you go. It makes it a lot easier when you got a guy that wants the best for you and is genuine about your success and all that stuff. And I was so fortunate to be a rookie and have some great vets, and I just hope I could do my part in developing these young guys.
Go ahead, Matt.
George, there's a lot of guys like Max Crosby, Hendrickson, Daniel Hunter, who all have big years in year 4. Is there something that you feel like you've kind of learned in the last 3 years that makes you feel like that, hey, there's a reason why these guys sometimes have these big breakout years in year 4?
I've been able actually to talk a little bit to a lot of those guys. And it just every year you try to keep getting better and better and better. Usually after about 3 years, you kind of figured it all out. And then it becomes really mental more than anything. It becomes a chess game for the defensive lineman. You try to piece everything together because you've seen just about everything. You've played almost every team in the league. So it becomes really mental, and really, for me, it's about taking advantage of my opportunities and making my layups, really. So.
Is there any piece of advice from those guys that really resonated with you?
Just to put it in simple terms, finding a way to find a way, to set a goal and do everything you can to reach that. So,
thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you guys.
Make my layups. George Karlaftis saying, make my layups. You got to get better every year. And he said, talking to those guys, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, guys that had big year 4 breakouts, especially Trey Hendrickson, burst onto the scene. First 3 years, not so much. 4th year, boom, gets a big contract with Cincinnati. Now in Florida. Hanging out, as he tweeted out this morning, or IG'd this morning, that he is in Florida, no longer even in the state of Ohio, where they are doing training camp and everything with the Bengals. But make my layups, but saying that after 3 years we've seen a lot. It's mental, the chess game, the back and forth, but he's got to make my layups. I like that. I like that saying from George Karlaftis, as he said, he's hit the quarterback, he's pressured the quarterback. Bring the quarterback down, get the sacks if he thinks that there were layups there that he left on the table. Here is Trey Smith.
Hey, Trey, congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Going back to that period of time when you got the franchise tag, signing it quickly, were you expecting to end up with the franchise tag? Was that something that was there any surprise to that? And what kind of went into the decision to sign it at the tag as quickly as you did?
Yeah, I was just going through the process, and obviously that's what ended up happening. Getting a tag is a tremendous sense of honor in a way that the organization has that much faith and confidence in your ability as a player. So for me, I looked at it really as a blessing at the time, and ultimately we got the deal done, and that's a great blessing again, and something I had to go earn.
Leading up to the July 15th deadline, were you always confident you were going to sign a long-term deal as it got close to the deadline? Were there any doubts? What was that process like as July 15th approached?
Yeah, man, I got a veteran offensive lineman that trained me when I was a young kid named Artis Hicks, and I have a lot of long conversations and talks with him, and he just told me, man, at the end of the day, you can control the controllables. I can control my effort, my hard work, and that's all I can control at the end of the day. So obviously, I'm a faith-driven person. I just trusted in God, and I just kept going to work.
In your position of sat out a mandatory minicamp, why was it important for you just to be there for that process?
I want to be with my team. I love being here with the Kansas City Chiefs. I have a tremendous sense of honor and pride playing here. I really love my job. You know what I mean? Like, I miss Kansas City, and anytime I can come back and play a game I love, I'm not going to hesitate to do it.
You talk about your family, obviously, what you guys have been through, and what you've been through too. When you got the contract signed, you can tell you're pretty happy about it. What did it all mean for you to, go back to them and say, "Hey, I made it"?
Yeah, man. My bad. I lost my mom when I was 15, and I made 2 promises to her that I'll get my degree, play in NFL. I didn't promise her I'd be the highest paid, but I made a promise, man, and my parents sacrificed so much for me to be here, so much, and to have that moment with them, it's special, bro. It's special, and it's something I won't take for granted, man. My bad.
You're good.
Trey, had your conversation with your sister?
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Ashley was at work, so she missed the FaceTime call, but, just super excited, man, and just talking to them and, just really happy, man. Just, we went through a lot, and being able to, sort of put an exclamation point on that. There's still work to do, but it was just an amazing time to spend with both my dad and my sister,
What's your message to guys? Because, so many people put so much stock in where people are drafted and things like that in terms of just the fact that you can come into the league, work your way into being the highest paid interior lineman.
Yeah, man. Every day, just come to work. Every day, 100 miles per hour, just whatever you do, man. I'd rather say whoa than go. And that's just sort of the mentality you have to bring, as a undrafted, even a low drafted guy. Not necessarily that the cards are stacked against you. When you step in the NFL, man, you step in that field, it's open competition. You know what I mean? You got to go earn that spot every single day. I step on the field, I got to go earn my job every single day. And, if you have that worker's mentality, you give 100%, you try to, apply what your coaches are telling you in your game every single day and just become a better player, it'll pay off. But at the end of the day, you have to put the work in. There are a lot of days that are going to be bad. Most of the days are going to be bad, but those good days, man, they're good and they're sweet, man. But you just got to put the work in.
When you were drafted, you slipped in the draft because of medical issues, and then, no one really knew if you'd be able to compete for a starting job right away, and you came out and won the starting job. Josh Simmons, somewhat similar. People had questions about whether he'd be ready, and now he's here with a chance to win the job as a rookie. What advice do you give him about competing for a starting spot as a rookie in his first camp?
Yeah, man, just go to work, man. Everything Coach Heck and Coach Matei, and we have Juan Castillo and Cam Irvin today helping us out as well. Just apply everything you can to your game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Everything's not gonna come at once. It's gonna take time to develop those habits. St. Joe's is one of the hardest training camps in the NFL. It's gonna be miserable every single day, and just get used to it, man. But the end of the day, you just got to keep fighting. You got to keep punching. You got to keep swinging day after day after day and just keep stacking and keep building. And when the season comes around, you're ready. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I would give him the same advice I would give myself as a rookie. Just show the work every day and just give him your best.
How do you gauge his readiness? Maybe because I know it's going to be a long camp to eventually do that.
You know, I just got to do my role as a player. I let my coaches, you know, we have a great front office staff. They'll make those determinations at the end of the day. But you know, I'm gonna help Josh along the way. I'm gonna help every young guy along the way, and you know, that's part of a leadership position. You know, I pride myself. Creed prides themselves. Juwan, all the other guys in the room, and offensive line room, pride ourselves and bringing the young guys along to play up to the standard of Andy Heck and Corey Matei and all the coaches.
What has jumped out to you about Kingsley this time around?
Yeah, I would say the same thing, man. Even last year, his tenacity. You know, Kingsley is a very talented player, strong player, violent. You know what I mean? I love Kings, and I think he does a great job. You know, he definitely is living up to the standard of what it means to play offensive line here with the Kansas City Chiefs, and really excited for his development as a player.
Trey, this is your first training camp since your rookie season that you're going to be here without Joe Thuney. What does his absence mean to you guys? And you mentioned stepping up as a leader, but is that something that you and Creed talked about, or how do you replace a guy like that?
Man, one, I miss him. That's the first thing. Damn, I miss Joe. But second part is, you know, obviously it's the presence that's missed, you know, not just the leadership on the field, but the things you guys don't see, you know, the times in the locker room, keeping morale high. And at the end of the day, it's sort of a natural thing, you know, Father Time sort of just phases it out a little bit. And, you know, obviously it's Creed, JT, and I just in an older situation. And it sort of sets on us just with our age to sort of be the leading presence in the room. And the beautiful thing about it is Joe Thuney was such a great leader that he gave us an example and a standard to set by. So for us, we know what it looks like to be great. And, you know, for us, it's just coming close to that.
So when the line goes out to dinner now, who picks up the tab? You, Creed, or do you put it on the rookie?
No, man, we don't do any rookie haze or anything like that, man. You know, I was a low draft pick, so I would never want to make a rookie favorite, first round or not, anybody. You know, I don't like that. But you know, we'll definitely put that bill. You know what I mean?
The actual moment of when you got the call or the actual news that you were getting the deal that you wanted.
Yeah, it was a little hectic day. It's actually in my barbershop. Shout out to Juwan Bonds, Purple Label. I was getting my hair cut, and I got the call. So just say I was in and out really fast. Yeah, fly. Doing the speed limit, though.
Yeah, I was flying the speed limit. He got the call. He was at the barbershop. How about that, though? You get the call. Hey, the deal's done. It's like the wolf. It's 30 minutes away. I'll be there in 10. Gets up from the mid-haircut. I wonder how lined his hair was. How lined up his hair was at that point. It's like the hairline all messed up and everything. Got the even low is no longer the even low. Got the fade going on in the back, and it's not really faded. A crooked line. Signing the contract and trying to take the picture. Like, don't look at the hairline. Didn't quite get done. Man. It is interesting, though, him talking about how hectic of a day that was. It sort of felt like the entire time, at least the way I felt, they were going to get something done. It feels like they're pretty close. Deadlines spur action. And as they got closer to the 15th, they'll get the fine details worked out. But, you know, even talking about that day, July 15th, and his advice from Artis Hicks that just control the controllables. And he had to worry about things that he could control that day. And it wasn't about the contract. He couldn't control if that got done or not. But he was just at the barbershop, got the call, and got the facilities so he can go and sign that contract. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Reaction, what we heard, and Mark Donovan clips next. All right, a Tuesday edition of The Zone. We'll hear from Ted Wynn coming up at noon, senior NFL writer at The Athletic. We'll hear from Andy Reid and then Mark Donovan. Interesting stuff that he said earlier in his press conference. But do want to remind you who our coverage of training camp on Sports Radio 810 WHB is brought to you by Greengrass Cattle Company. Make sure to stop into Greengrass Cattle Company on your way to St. Joe for their new training camp bundle. You can also order online at greengrasscattleco.com.
And by Easton Roofing, make sure to visit them at eastonroofing.com. They do commercial and residential roofs. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
So, interesting stuff from Trey Smith. He gets choked up and starts crying when talking about he was asked to reflect on the personal side of his journey. A guy that had the health issues, slid down to the 6th round, and then makes his way to being the highest paid player at his position. And he had that long pause, the tears, and then talks about losing his mom when he was 15 years old, made her 2 promises that he would get his degree and play in the NFL, and then a joke about, I didn't say I'd be the highest paid player in my position, but yeah, he is now. And that moment that he called his dad to share that special moment, and now he's in the position that he is. And look, man, it's never a bad thing when good things happen to good people. And Trey Smith seems like he is salt of the earth, one of the best people that you will come around. And he and Karlaftis seem like that. And as Patrick Mahomes said, Karlaftis and Trey Smith, the big part about that is the people that they are, not just the players that they are. Let's hear the comments, about 2 minutes or so, from Andy Reid today at training camp.
All right. As far as injuries go, the guys that didn't practice today were Fulton, Taylor, and Watson. So everybody else practiced. The same guys I mentioned yesterday that are on PUP, they didn't practice today. Other than that, it was great to get the guys back out here. Great for our fans to show up, and the numbers that they did always makes things pick up even a little faster than normal. So it's good to have that energy out here. Other than that, I don't have much from yesterday. It was his first day. It was good to see everybody moving around. Time's yours.
Andy, what did you try to get across to the team when you spoke to it yesterday from a theme or message?
Yeah, main thing is urgency. The urgency, just keep that up. Everybody's expectations are high amongst the team, amongst everybody around. So, but it comes down to the work that you take care of here and the foundation that you build here.
Andy, what did you see from Josh Simmons his first day out there?
Yeah, he did. He did some good things. He worked in there with the ones, and did a nice job. I thought he's got things he's got to work on, but he'll keep doing that.
How did Simmons get through the conditioning and the testing yesterday?
The whole team did really well, so that was a good thing. The league's broken it up now, so the O-line and D-line have one thing, and then the rest of the guys have another thing. So, but they all did well.
Jared Wiley's out there. Looks like he might be a little bit ahead of progress from where you thought he might be at this time.
Yeah, he's worked hard, and it was good to get him back out there, get his timing back. So I thought he did a pretty good job. He had the one drop down here, but other than that, he did a pretty good job out there. Yeah.
What's the plan in terms of when pads are going to put on building up to that?
Yeah, so it's a ramp up. These are ramp up days, which I think are good, for probably everybody, coaches and players. And so it's a gradual ramp up, not only length of practice, but then also starting with our shells on and then working from there. So we've got that's what we're going through now. This is day one.
This may or may not be Kelsey's last training camp, but can you just tell us a little bit about what he's meant to you as a coach and to this organization?
He's phenomenal. I mean, he's been great for this organization. Anytime you're with a guy for 13 years, you end up being close to that player. And so I've watched him grow as a player, as a man. We haven't talked about last year's in that. So, you hope he plays forever, but that's probably not going to happen to any of us. So whenever he decides to hang it up, he's built a great legacy and here. And, if he decides this is it, it's it. If not, more power to him.
All right, so there's Andy Reid in the comments that he made. Christian Fulton, Jawan Taylor, Trey Watson, backup tight end. Those are the guys on the PUP list, the only guys that did not practice today. Josh Simmons lining up with the ones at left tackle today. Jalen Moore at right tackle today. Kingsley Suamata'i at left guard. So the starting unit for the offensive line was Josh Simmons, Kingsley Suamataia, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Jalen Moore. Andy Reid said that he looked good, things that he still needs to work on, as, that goes with everybody. But, him being a rookie, still, plenty of things he needs to work on, but look good so far. This is just day one of camp. One of the biggest takeaways and maybe quote-unquote winners of day one of camp was Rashee Rice, because I had joked around at the start of the show that, there's videos out there that you can go and look at from Pete Sweeney and Matt Derrick and Stephen St. John that are up there at camp, and it's like, here's a 7-on-7, Mahomes to Rashee Rice. Hey, here's a 7-on-7, and it's goal line drill. Mahomes to number 4, Rashee Rice. Oh, Mahomes hits Noah Gray. Mahomes to Rashee Rice. Another pass from Patrick Mahomes to Rashee Rice. Like, it was a big Rashee Rice day. And Mahomes even mentioned that, like, hey, he's going to get better and better, and he's going to evolve his game even more this year than what he was already doing last year. And he said, and you saw today, us, connecting, and that's going to be the case. We'll continue to hear about the deep ball. Patrick Mahomes was asked about, the improvements from last year and attacking down the field. And he said the same things that he's been saying this offseason, quote, I have to be better at throwing the ball down the field. Quote, it first starts with me. He's mentioned that time and time again. I've got to be better. It starts with me. Throwing the ball down the field, it's me. I have to give those guys a chance. And I think the more and more we look at film and, look at plays and see people write these longer, pieces about the offense, you see certain plays along the way that were missed, but that's going to happen in every single game. You're not going to be 100% on all of these different throws, and even plays that might have been missed in looking elsewhere when there might have been a bigger play that was available. We'll see. We heard this last year. I'm going to be a little more cautious in the talk we have about the renewed energy to attack downfield with this offense, considering we heard that last year. Now, was that going to be the case if Hollywood Brown was healthy and Rashee Rice did not get injured? Maybe. But even early on, we saw those quick passes because they didn't, Kingsley Suamataia played 7 quarters of football and he was done at left tackle. It was done. 7 quarters, can't play anymore. And at that point, it was a revolving door trying to figure out what you had at left tackle. Wanya Morris, Kingsley for a little bit, Wanya Morris, and then, oh my goodness, from the Arizona Cardinals, left tackle that they signed from the Arizona Cardinals midseason. I want to say Donovan Smith for some reason, but I know it's not Donovan Smith, obviously, because he comes in and he hurts his hamstring and then he's out. And it was like this was going to be, the guy that could fill in from the ACL. But you had him in there for a game against, what was that, the Chargers? The night when they kicked the field goal off the uprights. DJ Humphries. Knew it started with a D, though. Donovan, DJ Humphries. Hurts his hamstring, and then back to Joe Thuney. And then that's, it was early on. So I hope they attack down the field. And while Mahomes is right that, he's saying that he has to be better at doing that, yeah, certainly. Everybody can improve. But the offensive line has to make and take the biggest step forward in being able to do that. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. Mark Donovan had a press conference this morning, and a lot of ground that he covered about the future of the stadium and where Arrowhead is going to be. We'll hear from Mark Donovan on the other side of the break, what he had to say there in St. Joe. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. The Drake heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from Ted Wynn coming up a half hour from now. He writes for The Athletic, senior NFL writer. He has the piece up there about the Chiefs getting back to that explosive passing game, which has certainly been a theme this offseason locally and nationally. Todd Lebo at 1 o'clock. We'll hang out with Todd Lebo. No fact or fiction today because Sterling couldn't be bothered on his day off and vacation. That's right. There will be fact or fiction today. Fiction. Sterling's like, oh, yeah, I'm actually going to be driving. Oh, you can't take 15 minutes out of your driving to do a fact or fiction with us? I mean, geez Louise, man. I mean, you want to talk about lazy. I mean, good night, dude. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Text says, rather say whoa than go. That's good stuff. Yeah, that was Trey Smith when he was talking about the motivation to get up and attack every day. Trey Smith's fun to listen to, man. If he's talking, I'm listening. And he had a lot of good stuff there. You know, control the controllables. The advice that he would give to Josh Simmons, go to work, apply everything that you can learn. It's a marathon, not a sprint. This is a hard camp. You're going to be miserable. Just get used to it. Just get used to the fact that you're going to be miserable, all right? Don't let it affect you. It will probably. There are hard days, tough days. You work through all of those hard days, tough days. There are some fun days, there are some great days, and when they're great, man, they are great. When they're sweet, they are sweet days. But it's not going to be easy to get to those days. And Trey Smith's path along his entire career was not easy to get to July 15th, 2025, becoming the highest paid guard in the NFL. Let's hear from Mark Donovan. And he talked earlier today there in St. Joe as they open camp. He has his regular press conference up there, but this one's certainly a little bit different when it comes to the stadium discussions, and we're getting closer and closer to this deadline. It's an arbitrary deadline, January 1st of 2026, by the state of Kansas for the Star Bonds to be extended, even though the actual deadline goes until July 1st or June 30th of 2026, but also there in St. Joe. The question to Mark Donovan, this is clip number 5, we'll play this one. The question to Mark Donovan was about how much the stadium decision will impact the future of training camp in St. Joe.
Very little, when you think about it. If you just look at, Sam's here, so I'll say it, but timeline. If you just look at the timeline, the reality is, you know, we're going to be in our stadium through 31. So the fact is, you know, as long as we're there, there's a good chance we'll be here. So that's really the plan, and then we'll make a decision after that.
Mark, you talked a lot about the history here at St. Joe, history of the Chiefs. That's part of the reason the fan base is what it is. How much of the stadium process is finding reasons not to leave, but also making the right business decision?
I think it's much more making the right business decision, the right decision for our fans. It's not about, look, we don't want to leave, but we may find a better option in the future and decide to do that. That's kind of what we're doing with the stadium right now. We may, and we may not. I think what makes this thing special is we've got a great partnership with the people who spoke today. And they understand the impact that a training camp can have on St. Joe. And I'll go back to where I opened, which is, you know, if you're sitting in these seats in 2009 and 10, I think you could ask some fair questions about what kind of impact could this have on St. Joe. And you look at it today, 15 years in, it's measurable, and it's exceeded everyone's expectations. And we're proud of that. But we also believe that's what we bring to the table. It's like we can bring something that can change and have impact. And, you know, if you look at the history of this, we've done that. So we believe we can do that again, or we can continue.
So he says till 2031, and he said that with us as well at the Super Bowl, that they're not going to break the lease. They'll stay at Arrowhead through that time. And if they're going to be renovating, then they'll certainly stay longer after that as well. If they're going to be building new, then they'll be playing through 2031 at the current Arrowhead Stadium. I am of the mindset that renovation or moving to Kansas, that when that's done, the Chiefs will no longer go to St. Joe. I don't know how long Andy Reid has left to coach, if he's going to be the head coach for 6 more years. I hope he's the head coach for 50. I hope he coaches forever, like he said he hopes Travis Kelce plays forever. I hope Travis Kelce plays forever and Andy Reid coaches forever. If they do that, then I do wonder how good Andy Reid will be as a coach when he's 90, 100, 110 years old, and how good Travis Kelce will be on the field, and if it's good for his health to be able to do that. I don't know. I don't think so. But however long he's going to be the head coach, Andy Reid, he likes going to training camp to St. Joe. But also, would there be a way to where, I don't know, maybe it's staying at hotels if you build over in Kansas or if you renovate there at Arrowhead Stadium? Because if you're going to have that much room, because if they're going to stay at Arrowhead, then, the Royals aren't going to be at Kauffman. We know that. There's 3 locations it seems like the Royals are going to be at: Hesperia, Washington Square, or North Kansas City. That's, not in that order that I would want. In fact, certainly the Hesperia would be the third choice of the 3. But you'll have more room to do things with. If that's expanding the practice facility so that you can have those practices and training camp there, that you can also host fans and things like that. You can also have practices at Arrowhead if you need to. And certainly if they go to Kansas, I think there will be a lot of space for them to build out where they would host training camp there, and then with their hotels they're building. It's not the same as St. Joe and the dorm room, but are you becoming a Super Bowl championship team because you're staying in dorms? Or are you becoming a Super Bowl championship team because of the players that you have, the work they put in, the way you go about the practices, the film, the coaching, all of that stuff? They weren't winning championships when Andy Reid, before Patrick Mahomes, and they were still going to St. Joe. So it wasn't that they built championships because they were in St. Joe. St. Joe has been great. It's fun to go up there and watch a training camp. I thought it was fun to go up to River Falls. It's a longer trip to get there, but you get there and you're there for 4 or 5 days, whatever. When you covered the team, maybe you'd stay for like a week or something like that, and you'd go in different groups or sessions, if you want to call it that, rotations. And as fans, you'd probably go up there for 4 or 5 days. Go up there, watch a few practices, and then drive back. St. Joe, you can go up there every single day, there and back. And if you want to stay up there, Stony Creek has got you taken care of as well. But I think if they're going to build these things, it would make sense that some of the things that are built are going to be to also host training camp there, because that's also a revenue generator, that you would be bringing people. If you build in Kansas and you've got hotels and you've got bars and restaurants, you think they're going to St. Joe to host training camp? Or they're having training camp there where people can go to practice, and then when they're done, let's go grab something to eat at the bar here. We're from Nebraska or Colorado or Alaska, and we're coming in to watch training camp. We're going to stay right there at the hotel that's connected to the practice facility in the Arrowhead and the entertainment district, and we're going to go to all the practices there. So St. Joe has been great for the Chiefs. And I think St. Joe's going to be hosting the Chiefs for the next 6 years until the Chiefs decide until the Chiefs ultimately get done with the renovation, or if they go to Kansas. It's my prediction. That's what I believe will probably be the case with this, and we'll see. But I still enjoy going up to St. Joe as well. The renderings for the Kansas City Chiefs, this is clip number 7. The renderings left a lot to be desired when they came out in 2024, early 2024, to the point that people thought the Chiefs were sabotaging the vote so that it would get voted down. That's how uninspiring they were. And in the legislation in Missouri, we heard that the Chiefs' renovation is now $1.15 billion, up from what was $800 billion. So you've got $300 million added to these, whatever the renovation will be. Certainly the rendering should be different. Mark Donovan was asked about that and talks about the renderings being updated as these new plans and more ideas and vision for what could be a renovated Arrowhead.
I think it has to continue to evolve. Two things impact that, to answer your question directly, Vahe. The first would be that CSL study that we did, where we talked to thousands and thousands of our fans, and we talked to them about both options, in particular on the renovation side. We got a lot of good feedback. It was it was interesting feedback. Some things sort of opened our eyes to what was really important to them. So we've incorporated some of those as we continue to revise that design. I would say that most of the feedback from fans is related directly to the stadium experience. So in stadium, I'd like to see this, this, or this, or in stadium, I've been to this stadium at another NFL team, they have this, could we incorporate that? It's been, the majority of that feedback was in stadium. I think I've said this to you guys before, but their big three were, make sure it's loud, make sure that tailgate is as good, if not better, in either option. And then the humbling one was, there was a very, very high level from the survey of, we trust the Chiefs to do the right thing. So that's humbling, but it's also, that creates even more pressure on the responsibility to get it right. So that's one of the reasons we're taking the time.
Loud tailgate experience, and we trust you to get it right. And as he said, the rendering's evolving as well. And I said that I thought the, quote, activation zone for the Chiefs was just a placeholder for what could be a hotel sports book when Missouri ultimately passed gaming and then decided that they could start actually placing bets and had a time frame for that. That the, quote, activation zone, it's like, well, what's just some random patch of grass that's there? Well, yeah, because they don't have some of the other things that they'd probably like to get done. They can't have the hotel sports book there until Missouri passes the gaming in the state. But he talked about being loud, the tailgate, and the trust. If you're talking about just noise and the acoustics, then you're not going to get better than what they have at Arrowhead Stadium. Because even if you build a dome, it's not going to be as loud. Domes are loud, but it's not going to be the feeling like it is at Arrowhead Stadium. You can certainly create the tailgate experience no matter where they go. Kansas, you got plenty of space that you can do that. Arrowhead, we already know the tailgate experience is going on there. So interested to see what those updated and evolving renderings would look like now, some 15 months later after those things originally came out. Let's hear this clip. This is a longer Q&A, if you want to call it that. There's a number of follow-ups with Mark Donovan, and this is about the connection with the Royals and the decision, their decision ultimately, and how that impacts the Chiefs' decision and their timeline. Here's Mark Donovan weighing in on the Royals' connection for when the Chiefs can ultimately get something done themselves.
Obviously, we got to figure out what happens with the Royals. So is that stadium there? If it's not there, when is it not there? And then you can figure out what you can do. We can make all the plans we want, but there are a lot of things that go into that that we aren't a part of. Right? The county's talking to the Royals about what happens next if they go. So what we've tried to do is control what you can control, prepare for what you can prepare for, and then make sure you have options. And that's a word you guys have heard from me before.
The Royals, Mike, how much of, since you guys are now working independently, would their decision, if it were to come sooner rather than later, how much would that provide clarity that maybe you guys do need to actually go to the Hunt family and say, these are our options now, because, the Royals have made their choice?
Yeah, Nate, that's a really logical question. I think that it's got to have some impact, right? Because it makes clear at least one option. I will say this, we're big fans of the team over there and the people involved in that team. I would say, and I've said this as well, they're going through the same process we are, so we actually respect that it takes time and it takes effort and a lot of meetings, a lot of things you can control, a lot of things you can't control from a timing perspective. I think to specifically answer the question, it's when you look at once they make a decision, okay, so if they go one way, then okay, what happens to Truman Sports Complex then? What does that create from an opportunity standpoint, from us, from a control standpoint? You got to think about if we're the only tenant, like that creates some flexibility for us that we haven't had in the past. So there are things we got to take into account. If they decide something else where they're staying, what if they extend? Well, if they extend, how does it impact us? Like, could we do a renovation at the same time frame if they're still operating a baseball team there? So that factors in. The one thing that we've sort of fleshed out and feel confident in saying is if they decide to go to Kansas, it doesn't really have an impact on us and our ability to go to Kansas. They're two different projects. The way that the Star Bonds work, you're basically funding your own project. So we feel like that could happen and it wouldn't have an impact on us. So back to the options. I think all the options are in play. We've stayed in close consultation with them on just where are you and what's your time frame. But other than that, we both agreed that it's better for both of us to be separate.
Mark, could you foresee making a decision before the Royals?
Impossible to answer that question because I have no idea what their timing is. So I can't tell you that. I will say this: we're going to take the time we need to make the right decision. And a lot of that fact, there are moving parts here, and you got to get all those moving parts to line up at the right time. But look, we're closer than we've ever been. That's sort of the objective, is each day get a little closer, and we've been able to do that.
I'm saying you're not intentionally, once you guys have the information you need, you wouldn't intentionally wait on the decision?
No, and that's one of the benefits of going your own way and being on two different paths, is we're focused on what we're doing and how we do it. With the exception of what I mentioned before, if for some reason we're renovating and they're staying, that has an impact. But no, we wouldn't hold up an announcement and cut to them.
Is there any communication between you and the Royals about this at all?
Very little. We're not talking deal points. We're not talking about what they're doing or what they're not doing. It's more checking in on are they continuing down path, but it's very limited.
It's a lot there in the connection with the Royals. It's interesting. I think when he talks about the Royals renovating and staying at Kauffman, I think it's just bringing that up from a sense of, hey, if for some reason this happens, that also has to change our course of action, or at least impact it in some way. It would have to. Because if the Royals decided to stay, and as he said, then extend, well, what's that mean? And extending the tax, well, what does that mean then, extending the lease? What does that then mean for the Chiefs? Can they renovate while, a baseball stadium is being renovated all at the same time, renovate to the way that they want to renovate? Their plan certainly changed. I don't see, the Royals aren't staying at Kauffman. Like, they're going somewhere else. But it is interesting he brought that up, and I think that's just simply an example of these are things, everything that they have to consider while they're going through their route because they have been connected for so long. And everybody agrees, Royals, the Chiefs, they have been ready for a long time to go their separate ways, to split the lease, to be on their own. Royals, you deal with your thing. Chiefs will deal with their thing, and nobody has to worry about what the other team is getting or not getting and things like that. But he did say, when asked about would they make the decision before the Royals, and he said, well, that's impossible to know because I don't know their timeline and when they're making the decision. We've been in contact with them about certain things that they're thinking, but not to where we know exactly how close they are, paraphrasing here, to when they're making the decision. So it's impossible to know. And then a follow-up after that to get more clarification was, so if you guys decided where you wanted to go, you wouldn't then intentionally wait for the Royals? And he said, no, they wouldn't intentionally wait. When they decide that they're going to make, that choice where they go, they'll make that choice. And if the Royals choose Kansas, it does not impact them in any way, shape, or form of going to Kansas because, as he said, a couple of weeks ago, each Star Bonds, you justify your own project. They're both separate. You pay for your own. So if the Royals go to Kansas, they got to pay for their own Star Bonds in terms of what they generate. And the Chiefs, if they go to Kansas, they got to pay for those Star Bonds and what they generate. The sales tax revenue that comes from the new development. So interesting stuff there from Mark Donovan in the connection with the Royals as it's happening right now. And this has been the first couple of years of this whole thing leading into last year's vote was pushed the timeline by the Royals. They were the ones with the sense of urgency And the Chiefs were like, we don't really have to do anything here. That's no longer the case. The Chiefs have to figure their stuff out too now. They are fully on board, and we have a timeline. We've got to figure this out. There's a sense of urgency, especially to get to where they would have to figure out what the deal is to where you can make sure everything is the way that if you're in Kansas, we talked with Ty Masterson, if you're in Kansas, and he gave the arbitrary deadline of January 1st, 2026, that would also mean that all of December is spent making sure they're going over the T's crossed and the I's dotted of the deal that they would have in place, of the decision that they would have already made to go to Kansas. So that is not, you've got December 31st at midnight to decide if you're going to go to Kansas. No, that's when they're no longer going to be looking at some of those things, at least from the Kansas side. We'll see with that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and Mark Donovan gave an anecdote of what took place inside a meeting with the Hunt family that I thought was pretty interesting, because for 2 years now we've been saying this particular thing. We'll take a timeout. We'll hear that next. All right, hanging out here on this Tuesday edition. We'll talk with Ted Wynn coming up at noon. Talking about the Chiefs offense, senior writer for The Athletic. Mark Donovan gave an anecdote in his press conference this morning, and I enjoyed this one for a particular reason. But Mark Donovan, this is clip number 13. He talked about Clark Hunt's input on the stadium location conversation.
Clark's probably the most methodical guy I've ever worked with. He makes me better because I'm not the most methodical guy. And he's been extremely methodical in this whole process. I mean, there have been days when I'll walk out of a meeting saying, if we get that, we got to go this direction. And then I'll walk out of a meeting on the other side and say, okay, we got that, we can go this direction. And he just stays steady through the whole thing. He's expressed his sentiment for what a special place GHA Field is, and he's also expressed a very willing openness to look at other options. There was a meeting early on with the siblings where we talked about, hey, are we going to go down this path? And this was important for me to understand, like, I don't want to do all this work and then have you guys say we'll never leave. But I won't go into the details of the individuals, but there was hey, are we good? Should we look at all our options? And one of the siblings said, well, would Dad want us to stay? And one of the siblings said, Dad was the one who moved us from Texas. I think he'd be okay. He wants us to make the best decision. And then another sibling said, Dad would want us to do what's best for our fans. And that encapsulates Lamar, but it's also the understanding of the children of Lamar that it's about our fans, it's about giving them the best experience for the next generation.
So a couple of years ago, when we were talking about if the Chiefs were going to leave Arrowhead or if they were going to renovate, and one of the common sentiments that was given at the time, and still is brought up, was Lamar Hunt would never leave Arrowhead. There's no way Clark Hunt's going to leave Arrowhead because Lamar loved Arrowhead and called it the most special place on earth and would never leave Arrowhead. And my argument to counter that has been, I think Lamar Hunt probably loves Dallas more than he loved Arrowhead. And he left Texas because it was the best deal for the family, for the organization, for the team, to go to Kansas City. Not saying Kansas now, but to go to Kansas City, to head to Missouri, and to build the stadium, and to move the team there. If he's willing to leave Texas for the best deal, then he'd be willing to leave Arrowhead for the best deal. And I've been saying that for a couple of years. Not that it would be Lamar Hunt going, well, let's go to Kansas. No, if it's not the best deal. But to say that, no, the best deal for the next 40, 50, 60 years and for the fan base is going to Kansas, no, we're not leaving Arrowhead. Lamar wouldn't want that. As I've said for 2 years, Lamar left Texas, and one of his kids even echoing that. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We heard from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. We've heard from Trey Smith and George Karlaftis today. Newly minted contracts. Trey Smith, highest paid guard in the league. George Karlaftis getting his contract taken care of as well. And we heard from Mark Donovan in his press conference earlier today, the future of where Arrowhead's going to be, which side of the state line. That won't be till after the 2031 season when the lease is up, but still, they've got some they've got a lot of things to figure out in the next 6 months or so when those star bonds and that arbitrary deadline expires. The Chiefs have a lot of things to figure out when it comes to their offense, and coming back from the Super Bowl loss at the hands of the Eagles in February. Joining us now, senior athletic NFL writer for The Athletic, Ted Wynn, joins us here in the zone. Ted, how are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
I am doing just fine. I appreciate you joining us From the standpoint, from your view and the national view, I guess, coming off the loss to the Eagles, how do you view this team, where they're at currently in trying to continue the dynasty and figure out whatever happened and what went wrong there in the Super Bowl and improving on that? What's the view of this Chiefs team coming off that Super Bowl loss to you?
Yeah, I think anytime you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, you're going to be in that conversation. But last year, it just seemed like, they were winning by the skin of their teeth. Every game was down to one possession, and no matter how good you are, if every game is coming down to one possession, there is a bit of luck involved. And we know the Chiefs are great at game management and playing situational football, and that's a big reason why they're winning these close games. But there's always going to be a luck factor involved. And, the Chiefs used to be a team with an explosive offense, but they've gone to a team that relied more on their defense and playing ball control football. And part of that is because teams are playing a ton of too high against them. Going back to 2022, no team has seen more too high. But even last year when they were seeing single high defense, they were ranked 27th in explosive play rate. So it just doesn't seem like they have the talent on offense to be an explosive offense, even when defenses are challenging them. And we saw that in the Super Bowl when basically the Eagles were just playing quarters the whole game and just jumping all these short routes, and they just couldn't buy enough time for Mahomes to get deep. And when they did, he was able to punish them deep. But that's going to be a huge sticking point next year. Is can the offense buy time for Mahomes? And I think that's why we saw such emphasis on improving that offensive line this offseason.
If they were healthy last year, and I think the offensive line is a big part of it certainly, and Mahomes has taken a lot of blame and put that on his shoulders for the lack of explosive plays, and we'll see in this off season and going into training camp in this year how much that will improve. But if they were simply healthy, and this is something that maybe we can't really quantify, but if Rashee Rice were there, if Hollywood Brown all season, and Xavier Worthy maybe coming along in the particular role they wanted him to play originally, as opposed to having to pick up other things and other pans in the kitchen to try to, help, is how much better is the offense if there's just health? Even if the offensive line is the same way, could they have attacked those two deeps and the way the defenses were playing them? Could they have attacked them better to where it wouldn't have been as glaring? Or does this whole thing start with, if you're not protecting Patrick Mahomes, you can have the best receivers, but you're not going to give them time to go down the field and take the top off the defense, and everything's going to be, 5, 10, 15 yards, and the defense is going to be right there with 7 or 8 guys in coverage?
Yes, certainly the offense would be better with all the receivers healthy and slotted in the roles that they should have played. But I think it still comes down to the offensive line and buying time, because you need time for those receivers to get downfield. Even if you have the best receivers, if you can't buy them time to get downfield, it's hard to win deep. And I think last year was just a struggle. Joe Thuney played left tackle admirably for as long as he could, but when he started playing those teams with a great pass rush like the Texans and then the Eagles, you saw the real struggle there. And I think that's one of the reasons why they were so intentional with getting a tackle, signing more for the money that he got, and then going out and drafting Josh Simmons. So we'll see where Simmons is at health-wise, but I think that there is a good chance that this line is better, but there's a lot of moving parts and some question marks.
This has been, even when they were the number one offense in the league in 2022 and played the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and that second half was just brilliant offensively, and we've, talked about it a lot on the air, anybody that's been listening, and that the Chiefs got every single yard in the second half that they wanted to get. The only yard they didn't get was when they slid at the 1 yard line with Jerick McKinnon. So that second half was just, they were, moving the ball down the field, doing whatever they needed to do. But the air yards per attempt is something that we've certainly seen around here, that has gone down and down. That is slowly diminished. And it's, whether it's talent at the offensive line or if it's talent at the wide receivers or it's just simply the defense that's being played. Are you surprised? Let me ask you from this standpoint, as someone that covers the NFL, with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, are you surprised that we have seen more and more of this offense evolve into an offense that looks more and more like the Alex Smith version of the Chiefs?
Yeah, I think, naturally when you're seeing the type of defenses that the Chiefs are seeing so often, it's going to lend itself to a lower air yards per attempt. But to see how low it is, especially with a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, it is surprising. I mean, going back to 2022, he ranked 43rd in air yards per attempt. And, to me, I think that it's a function of the type of defenses you're seeing, the misses as far as receiving talent when it comes to draft picks and free agents and trades. And it comes down to the offensive line. So I think all three of those things come into play. Is not going to be very high just because you're seeing so much too high, but I would expect to at least try to get into the 20s, especially when you have a guy with so much arm talent like Patrick Mahomes. And I think the Chiefs wanted to throw deep last year. I remember seeing reports from training camp that they've been practicing, trying to get deep with Marquise Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy, but obviously injuries and all those things hit. So we'll see if they can get to their explosive, back to some of those explosive plays, especially if you see teams kind of copy what the Eagles did to the Chiefs and really challenge the Chiefs receivers.
And, that's part of the training camp storyline, I think, around here. Ted Wynn is our guest from The Athletic, senior NFL writer. Part of the training camp storyline around here, I think, is going to be, Ted, about some people that might be a little cautious in getting excited over the talk about throwing the ball deep because of what you just said. Last year there was such a consistent theme, an echo of press conferences about, well, we're pushing the ball down the field. We're going to attack down the field. Xavier Worthy is here. Obviously the injury to Hollywood Brown, that sucked. But we're just going to throw the ball down the field. Even if it's incomplete, we're attacking down the field. We're bringing back that explosive element. And they weren't able to do it, and there's a number of reasons for that. You mentioned the defense that's being played, the injuries that were there, and the offensive line just was really bad this year, especially the left side of the offensive line when they had to move Joe Thuney. And he played, as you said, admirably as much as he could. And then against the Eagles, I mean, they're just stacked with their defensive front, and they did what they did in that one. It has been a theme so far this offseason, Ted, and even hearing today the Chiefs talk about, attacking down the field. But what I've liked and what I've heard from Patrick Mahomes in this offseason, Ted, is Patrick has presented it in a way of not, hey, we've got to do this and this and this and get guys in this situation. Almost every time people have asked him about attacking downfield, he's started with, well, I've got to be better. I have to be better at it. Footwork has to be better. Trusting the offensive line has to be better. Reading the defense has to be better. It first starts with me. I've got to do all these things that I wasn't doing to even give these guys a chance. And, I know that probably some quarterbacks, are going to say that. But hearing from Matt Nagy and some of the others, it feels like there is a little more of that emphasis this offseason of some of the basics to just get back to what they were doing in 2018, 19, and 20. I know different defenses, Ted, but getting back to when it was, I know this guy's supposed to be covered, but it's Xavier Worthy, so I'm going to throw it down the field and split these safeties, even though he's not open yet, because as the saying around here, we used to say, Ted, bleep it Tyreek down there somewhere, that maybe there's a bleep it Xavier down there somewhere player too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, some of Xavier Worthy's best plays are when he doesn't look quite open, but Patrick Mahomes just unleashes the ball as far as he could, and Worthy somehow was able to track that ball down from last year. But another aspect that could really help the Chiefs get downfield is really improving the run game. And last year they were a very efficient run game, but they just couldn't create any explosive runs. I think part of that is Kareem Hunt having to play a lot, and Hunt is a back with very good vision. He could push the pile, but he just didn't have that long speed. So I think I thought the Chiefs would be a little bit more aggressive and trying to get running back a little bit higher. I know they drafted Brashard Smith, who is a pretty explosive back as well. And Pacheco is going to come back. So we'll see if that run game can get better because, part of what the Eagles did was they did sit back in too high and they did jump those short routes, but, they never really put that safety in the box. Yeah. So improving that run game and being a little bit more explosive can help with explosive passes, especially getting some play action opportunities downfield.
Yeah, the more and more we look back last year, Ted, and from a national standpoint, I'm curious of your perspective. The more and more I look back at this team, and I'm like, the run game wasn't explosive. They had issues on the left side of the line. They had injuries. Rashee Rice wasn't there. Kelsey looked a step slow. Mahomes had no trust in his offensive line. And somehow they still made it to the Super Bowl. Last year we might look back in like 10 years and go, 24 is probably the year they shouldn't have gone to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think they had the record for the most one possession wins in a single season. So it was a very unique season for sure.
Visiting with Ted Nguyen. I appreciated at The Athletic the piece that you wrote, senior NFL writer, the piece that you wrote about the Chiefs and talking about getting back to the explosive plays. I talked about this earlier in the show before we went up to St. Joe and heard from Andy Reid in the press conferences that the play you used in the Super Bowl I thought was pretty interesting because we've talked a lot about that touchdown to Xavier Worthy. It's been written about, talked about, discussed, analyzed, overanalyzed about what took place on that play in that touchdown to Xavier Worthy, the deep pass. But the play that you showed in your piece at The Athletic, I thought was pretty interesting because to me that was more symptomatic of the issue last year because the defense the Eagles played, the Chiefs had a play to beat it. Xavier Worthy is streaking wide open. Like if you just look at the all-22, it's like, just chuck the ball up there and that's going to be a touchdown to Xavier Worthy. The problem is when Xavier Worthy gets past the linebacker, Mahomes is already tucking the ball because he's got the guys in front of him. It's not a play that we discussed a whole lot in the offseason, but I appreciate that being the play that's used because that felt like that's kind of what last year was encapsulated into one play. You've got an opportunity. This guy is open. Even with this team playing deep, they are overreacting to things in front of them because they don't think you're going to, one, throw deep, Ted, or we don't think you've got the time to get there anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And the Eagles are smart. Vic Fangio is smart. They knew that they're going to sit back and too high. And even though they're sitting back and it looks like soft zone, they were just jumping everything. And especially Travis Kelce, there was times where he had 3-4 bodies around him, which is kind of what happened on that play. And Xavier, which left Xavier Worthy deep downfield. But they knew that if for longer developing plays, it's going to take time, and they knew they had an advantage up front, and that's exactly what happened. They were able to get to Patrick Mahomes before Worthy was really able to get open. I think maybe he could have hit him if he really threw with really early anticipation, but that would have been pretty difficult.
I think in 2008 or 2018, 19, and 20, I think Mahomes gains depth and fades back a little bit further in the pocket. And then just chucks it deep. But he doesn't have that. He had trust in his tackles at that point. Those tackles with Schwartz and Fisher, he trusted were going to do their job. And that the trust is not there in the tackles. The trust is the three guys interior when Joe Thuney was there at left guard. Last one for you. Ted Nguyen is our guest, senior athletic NFL writer, senior NFL writer for The Athletic. There's been talk about Mahomes and he was on a level by himself, and then there was like a gap, and then throw in who people think are 2, 3, and 4. A beauty in the eye of the beholder of the other three guys that people are viewed as sort of the consensus best in the NFL. That has been either pulled back a notch for Mahomes or the other guys have caught up, whichever way. Is Mahomes still the standard in the NFL for you, or has the defense, the offensive line, the wide receivers, the play overall with this offense dropped him down a peg, and now it's another quarterback?
Yeah, to me, I think before I went on a deep dive on watching the Chiefs to write my article, in my mind, I was kind of thinking, maybe Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and those guys are kind of inching a little bit closer. I mean, it's just like it's hard watching his offense sometimes where, you're just not seeing that special Mahomes we saw early on. But then as you watch him, you just see how good Mahomes has gotten at playing situational football, reading defenses, and just mastering the style of offense because he has to. And then you see when he does have to make a play, you see that special Patrick Mahomes. So to me, he's still the number one quarterback in the NFL, but we just want to see that special type of play that we've grown so accustomed to seeing, but we just can't see it as often because of the surrounding pieces.
Ted Nguyen, senior NFL writer at The Athletic. Ted, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Enjoyed the piece. I've sent the listeners there as well. So thank you for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. There's Ted Nguyen, senior NFL writer at The Athletic. And again, we talked about the piece that he wrote about the Chiefs getting back to the explosive plays, but I really enjoyed that specific play that they used because Xavier Worthy is streaking wide open. But Mahomes has defensive linemen right in front of him. And I understand why Mahomes would not trust that the line was going to stay connected and be able to protect long enough for Xavier Worthy to make sure that safety that was in quarters did not turn and run with Xavier Worthy, the one that would have been on the near hash, because they jumped to go and get Travis Kelce. They were overplaying things in front of him, because they didn't have time for things to develop. The Chiefs didn't have time for things to develop behind them. But interesting hearing that Ted Nguyen said going into this article, going into this story, this piece about how the Chiefs can improve and get back to explosive plays, his feeling was Josh Allen, these other quarterbacks have caught him and maybe even surpassed. And then after doing the deep dive saying, no, it's still Mahomes. Yeah, there might be a surrounding cast issue, but you still see the plays that he makes. You still see his ability to read the defense, put his team in the position, and make plays when you have to do that. And that's why they were the most efficient team on third down. They had the highest percentage of first downs on third down and 7 or longer last year, even with the offensive line and the personnel. And that's because of who number 15 is. As we take a break, we give you guys an opportunity to do something really cool. K-Pot Korean Barbecue and Hot Pot. It's an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue spot. 3 locations in the area: Overland Park off of 135th and Metcalf, the Legends right between Sporting Park and Legends Field, and also Northland 169 and Berry Road, offering you all-you-can-eat major way experience buffet. Endless fresh ingredients like the marinated short ribs, beef ribeye, pork belly, beef brisket, and more. The whole family, a date night, whatever it is. Check out one of the 3 local K-Pot locations, fresh ingredients, endless variety, and a unique, memorable dining experience for all. That is K-Pot with those 3 locations. We're going to give away a $50 gift card right now to caller number 8. Call it, let's just randomly. I don't know why we went 8 or 10. I'm not sure. Randomly, caller number 8, we will give away a $50 gift card to K-Pot Korean Barbecue and Hot Pot in those 3 locations. We'll take a timeout. 913-3-810-810, $50 gift card. Caller number 8 is yours. More Zone next. All right, Tuesday edition of The Zone. We'll talk with Todd Lebo coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. No fact or fiction. That is a fact. It's a fact. Chiefs training camp day number 1. We heard from Andy Reid. We heard from Patrick Mahomes, Trey Smith, George Karlaftis. We heard from Mark Donovan earlier today as well. And even heard from Chris Jones in the background during George Karlaftis' press conference, calling him G-Money. Don't call him George. His name is G-Money now. Then asking Karlaftis, is that what Chris Jones calls you? He says he calls me all kinds of names. Just calls me all kinds of names. Thank you to Ted Wynn, senior NFL writer at The Athletic. And, you know, doing a local show versus a national show, so many more things that I find to be refreshing and more enjoyable about hosting a local show, in that we can go a mile deep with these teams and talk about the third and the fourth and the fifth linebacker and who's going to make the team because of special teams. And we only have to be sort of an inch wide on the overall sports landscape in the grand scheme of things. Whereas today, hosting a national show, all you're talking is Cowboys, man. I mean, just like waking up and it's like, what are we going to talk about nationally? Cowboys. Got to talk some Cowboys. Why? Because Jerry Jones talked. There's Cowboys stuff. But also, what's going on in Cincinnati? Because Trey Hendrickson has tweeted out, IG'd out a picture of Florida, which is where he's at right now. He was in Cincinnati at training camp. But the talks have stalled with the contract negotiation, and he has now left training camp. Shamar Stewart is not at training camp. Here is Mike Brown, the owner of the Bengals. He was asked about the contract issues and why they can't get something done with their first-round draft pick and the details about the language that they both are disagreeing on as to why he's still unsigned.
Does this one feel unique?
This one is surprising. I hesitate to get into the detail, but basically it turns on whether out years are guaranteed if he gets involved in conduct detrimental to football. Well, what does that mean? Detrimental to football in recent years has been violence to women. That's about the one that comes to mind. There are others probably, but that's the one that I think of. Well, if we get a player who gets involved in something like that or does something that is just unacceptable, guess what? I don't want to pay him. I really don't. If he's sitting in jail, I don't think I ought to be paying him. And so we say that if he got involved in conduct detrimental, we'd have the right to terminate the guaranteed part for the back years. He says, or his agent says, oh no, you can terminate the guaranteed part only for the remaining part of the year in which the event occurs. Oddly, something like this has never occurred in my memory with us. I don't think it's going to occur. So we're sitting here arguing over something that I think is pretty remote, and I ask myself sometimes why the hell we're doing it, but we are, and he's doing it too, and at some point we got to put this stuff behind and just get him signed and get him up here and get him so he can be a contributor. He needs to get underway soon. It doesn't help him or us to have this strung out.
So Mike Brown talking about that language and the conduct detrimental to the league, to the team. And what we talked about with Shamar Stewart, that it's so ambiguous because if you decide that, no, this is conduct detrimental, that not only are we going to withhold the guaranteed dollars this year, but the new language that they put in this year as opposed to years past is that the guaranteed dollars for every future year also go away. Where the language that has always been with the Cincinnati Bengals is that conduct detrimental, the guaranteed dollars that year are no longer guaranteed. But the next year and the year after that, they would be guaranteed. Now, Mike Brown saying, well, I don't want to pay somebody that's going to be in jail. Let me go ahead and go on record as saying you're not going to. The Raiders aren't paying Henry Ruggs. All right, you're not paying someone. Now, if he's on the commissioner's exempt list, he'd be getting paid. But if he's suspended, he's not getting paid. So you could also, deem conduct detrimental. Yeah, serving jail time. Currently serving jail time is conduct detrimental. We're not going to pay that guy that money. And you wouldn't have to. And also him saying, like, well, we're doing it, but he's doing it too. So it's like it's so minute. We're arguing over something that has such a very minuscule possibility of happening. Then why are you doing it? If it has such a minuscule possibility of happening, then it doesn't seem to be worth the fight to change the language in that you didn't change with any other draft pick. That he is now saying, I'm not going to sign this because you haven't done this with anybody else. Why are you doing it with me? And it's pretty ambiguous for you to do that. Micah Parsons is going to get paid a lot of money. Is he going to get paid with the Dallas Cowboys? Let's first play clip number 3 here. Before we play the one that Todd loaded in, let's play clip number 3 here because this was yesterday. So Jerry Jones talked today as well, but this was from yesterday that Jera talking about the Micah Parsons contract. And, of course, injuries have to play a part in it.
Just because we sign him doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Seriously. We've signed, I remember signing a player for the highest paid at the position in the league, and he got knocked out 2/3 of the year, Dak Prescott. So there's a lot of things you can think about when you, just as the player does, when you're thinking about committing and guaranteeing money.
Seriously, he did not miss 6 games last year. He missed 4. He missed 6 games last year. Seriously. No, he missed 4. And he's only missed 5 games in his entire career. In 4 years in the NFL, he's missed 5 games. So it is pretty interesting, Jerry Jones talking about, well, like, even if we sign the guy, doesn't mean we're going to have him. That's how it goes with anybody. Even if you draft a player, doesn't mean you're going to have him on your team. So why even draft a player? Why not just trade all your picks? Because, well, if we draft this guy, doesn't mean he's going to play. He could get injured. Not only can you get injured, other things can happen in life. Here's Jerry Jones today continuing to apparently dig a deeper hole with Micah Parsons, his stud defensive player, in these contract negotiations. Jerry Jones talking about the unknown, really, of life.
The other thing I would say is contracts are 4 or 5 years. Okay? There's a lot of water under the bridge if you step out there and do something in the first 2 or 3. You can get hit by a car. Seriously. And so there's a lot to look at over a lot of years that could make a big difference. Have you ever heard of any clubs committing to players and then they didn't pan out after they committed to them? We have.
Then why'd you sign CeeDee Lamb? CeeDee Lamb could get hit by a car. I would guess, though, if Micah Parsons got hit by a car, Micah Parsons might win. Also, he might outrun the car. I'm not sure. But anything could happen. You sign a guy to 4 or 5 years, in the first couple of years, anything, you can get hit by a car. Seriously. I like how 2 times he said in those quotes, seriously. 1, this guy missed 6 games last year. Seriously. He missed 4.
Almost sounded like a threat.
Yeah, you can get hit by a car. Seriously. Ask me one more question, and you can get hit by a car. Seriously. All right? But if, like, that logic goes to really anybody on your team, you sign the rookies, second round and on, to 4-year contracts. First rounders, you've got a 5th-year option. It's a 4-year contract. You don't have to pick up that 5th-year option, if they get hit by a car. But if they're not playing, you're not paying them. So, I mean, if they can't play and they're retired, you're not paying the money because of injury. Now, some of that injury guaranteed, certainly that's there, and there's all those different details that go along with the contract. The point still remains that pretty much anybody that you talk about, you don't know what's happening tomorrow, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. But I'm happy the Chiefs have figured something out with Trey Smith and George Karlaftis for 3, 4, and in Karlaftis' case, 5, potentially 6 years down the road. I'm happy that they gave Patrick Mahomes that contract for 10 years, and they're going to keep extending him. I don't know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years. You can get hit by a car. So this is dealing with everybody. But they just paid CeeDee Lamb. You just gave CeeDee all that money. Why'd you give him that money? It's just an odd route to take during negotiations with one of the best defensive players in the league in Micah Parsons. Because Jerry, I don't know. It's interesting because Jerry, it feels like the reputation for him is to be the one that pays the highest paid player. The one that gives the contract and says that I've got the highest paid player at this, which was surprising that CeeDee Lamb did not get the most money because I felt like Jerry was going to come over the top of what was, I believe, Justin Jefferson at the time before Jamar Chase signed his deal and say, look, we've got the highest paid wide receiver in the league. And then Jamar Chase ultimately, beating that. But that wasn't the case. But Dak Prescott at the time for a little bit, and then they lost Dak Prescott. So it's not like we learned from the Dak Prescott issue not to do this. Well, then they gave CeeDee Lamb the money. It's just, I don't think Jerry can really help himself. Like, Jerry can't help but go to a microphone and just say whatever's on his mind. And I think everybody's aware that we don't know what the future brings. Like, everybody's aware that tomorrow is not promised. But that is with every single contract in the NFL. And if you're going to pay somebody, Micah Parsons seems like somebody that would be worth paying. But you never know. To Jerry Jones, he missed 6 games last year. Not only did he not miss 6 games last year, he's missed 5 total games in his entire career. He played 16 his rookie year. And in fact, 16 his rookie year, 17 in 2022, 17 in 2023. He's also played 4 postseason games. So out of 68 possible games, no, actually that would be 72. Out of 72 possible games that he has been, that have happened for the Dallas Cowboys since he's been in the league, out of 72, he's participated in 68 of them. I mean, come on, man. This guy, he's not a guy that's just, that's injury prone. Who knows? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. So there you go. Trey Hendrickson left camp today. Shamar Stewart's still not at camp. And Jerry Jones doing his best, apparently, to continue to piss off Micah Parsons. I don't know. The Royals in action tonight. John Rave had a pretty special night last night. Rich Hill on the mound. Seth Lugo's name's being brought up. I want to talk about that in a couple of different areas and people writing about the trade deadline. Seth Lugo's name being brought up, including with the team that they will play the next 2 days that Seth Lugo will pitch against tomorrow. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. We'll talk with Todd Lebo coming up at 1 o'clock. Royals in action tonight. Winners of game 1 of the 3-game set with the Cubs, sitting 2-2 post All-Star break. Back to 3 games under 500. Winners of back-to-back games. And offensively, they've been scoring some runs. I find it to be unfortunate.
19
actually.
In the last 2?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, to a point, it's almost a little annoying that they're scoring runs now, because I feel like it's not too little too late, because, it's not too little. It's just
also given up
too
8
late.
in the last 2.
Yeah, right. Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, they score 7 on Friday, 7 on Sunday, and 12 last night. I mean, 26 runs, and then they scored 1 on Saturday. So 27 runs in 4 games post All-Star break. And, here you go. They're scoring these runs. They're also 2-2 in that time, which I would have told you, if they're going to score 27 runs, unless they do it all in one game, they probably win more than 2 games. They haven't, because they lost on Friday night. That was a rough one with Carlos Estevez. I think they are very much still in the trade discussion. Here's John Morosi from MLB Network. This was yesterday before the game. So he's there, MLB Network, covering the Cubs game last night with the Royals and Cubs. And John Morosi working for MLB Network. This was specifically about the Cubs trade deadline plans. But there's a name, obviously, that's been talked about, Seth Lugo, a lot. And he's pitching against the Cubs tomorrow. But here's John Morosi talking about the Cubs trade deadline plans and how that may include a guy that's starting on Wednesday for the Royals.
How about the Cubs? Company atop the Central. And this weekend series, we were talking about it before the show, I feel like showed the fight they have. What's the next couple weeks look like on the north side of Chicago?
Well, Lauren, first and foremost, I cannot wait to be there for our showcase game tonight. Cubs,
yeah.
Royals, to get a chance to see this amazing Cubs lineup. And one man who you didn't see at the All-Star game, Seiya Suzuki, who I think should have been there, one of the most productive players in the National League this season, quality at-bats from beginning to end for this Cubs lineup this year. And now that the lineup is so well situated, they can focus on the pitching conversation. And that's where things, I believe, will get really interesting. We saw a moment ago there, Michael Busch, a great at-bat there, Kyle Tucker. The Cubs did an excellent job winning that series against the Boston Red Sox and really showing how complete of a team they have. They run the bases exceptionally well. And now, of course, the question comes, what might they do at the deadline? And a number of pitchers, I believe, are on the Cubs' radar to potentially upgrade their rotation. Now, we know that their top 2 starting pitchers this year, both lefties, in Boyd and Imanaga. So I would expect more of a focus on a potential right-handed addition. Mitch Keller in the division, I love that possibility. Edward Cabrera, now he has a bit of an elbow issue. He's going to come back and pitch tomorrow, so I think that'll be a very heavily scouted start. And then Seth Lugo of the Royals, who are at Wrigley this week. So, Lauren, you know how I love to try to make connections happen. We'll see if we can organize a live trade on our showcase game tonight. It's not Lugo starting.
If anyone can, it's you.
Well, wouldn't that be a great way to celebrate the showcase game tonight if we had a Royals and Cubs trade? Now, the name that I'll mention, Lauren, that I think is on the minds of a lot of different scouts around the game, Owen Casey. The Cubs have arguably the most productive outfield anywhere in baseball. Owen Casey, the pride of Burlington, Ontario, is still at AAA. So he is potentially the man they may be able to move on if the right pitcher comes along. So Owen Casey, Futures Game alum, remember that name.
Yeah, Owen Casey is a guy that has been talked about there in Chicago for quite some time. And he is a guy that, as he mentioned there, was a part of the Futures Game. He's the number 1 prospect for the Chicago Cubs. He's a top 40 prospect in all of baseball. And he's OPSing at over 940 in AAA this year, has 19 home runs. It's a guy that people have wondered, because of the outfield in Chicago, if he would be moved. Now, in Chicago last night, they had said that they're not going to move Owen Casey specifically for a rental player. Okay. Joe Ryan had been mentioned, but Joe Ryan, the Minnesota Twins have now said they're not going to move Joe Ryan. He's under contract until after 2027. So there's still 2 years of team control for Joe Ryan with the Minnesota Twins. But that was one of the bigger names that was out there because it wasn't a rental player. Sandy Alcantara with the Marlins, not a rental player, but are you wanting to take on that contract with the 7 ERA, and is he going to get back to the player that he was? Whereas Seth Lugo does have a player option, so but it's a player option for less than he would get on the open market if he's healthy. So you're probably going to be a rental player for Seth Lugo. But if Owen Casey is a guy in a top 40 prospect that's worth it, do you throw in Carlos Estevez that isn't a rental player? That gives him another year. Do you throw in somebody else? I don't know what it would be, but Lugo goes tomorrow, and his name is being talked about in a lot of different places. But last night, 2 different reports brought up another name that we have been discussing that I would be open to them trading. At The Athletic, Jim Bowden talks about the teams that are going to be sellers and lists the Kansas City Royals as the 8th team of the selling teams. Not the most likely, all of that stuff. But out of all the different selling teams, he comes up to them at number 8. And talks about Seth Lugo, Estevez, that they wanted to go and get a big bat at the deadline, but that's, that they've fallen further out of the wild card race. But he writes here, there has been some buzz in the industry that they would dangle either infielder Michael Garcia or second baseman Jonathan India if they could land a power-hitting outfielder of equal value in a potential contender-to-contender type of swap. In addition, if they start winning, they could offer one of their plethora of catching prospects to get a bat to boost their offense, which ranks 29th in home runs. So that's at least one person that says Michael Garcia could be out there. The New York Yankees. This would be, I mean, I don't want to see Michael Garcia go. If it's the right return, then maybe, you go and move on from Michael Garcia.
Judge, really?
That's exactly right. If you believe in Aaron Judge, then yes, I think Michael Garcia is a guy that you should be able to trade for Aaron Judge. Why not, Jason Dominguez. They're out. They've got a lot of outfielders. He writes about the New York Yankees here, and this is from Nightingale. In terms of third base, the Yankees have been linked to Eugenio Suarez of the Diamondbacks, but there is concern about his defense. Another possible third base target includes Royals All-Star Michael Garcia. Kansas City could have interest in one of the Yankees outfielders to play left field for them. It's another mention of Michael Garcia. But good God, can you imagine Michael Garcia and Jazz Chisholm on the same team? All of the Yankees hating Michael Garcia and the Yankees fans talking about Michael Garcia is this, he's a punk, he's that. And then they bring him in because they need to improve third base that's being played by Jazz Chisholm. I mean, from the drama of it, it would be worth the price of admission. But Bob Nightingale also writes this, and this is where I think the Royals could take advantage of a seller's market. These are just a number of teams that are interested in starting pitchers. Says the New York Yankees, who would love to acquire all-star third baseman Suarez and either Zach Gallen or Merrill Kelly at the deadline, have no choice but to be aggressive. Sitting at home in October is disastrous. The Blue Jays have all of Canada salivating at the first half performance. They have no choice but to get aggressive and get a starter. The Mets understand the embarrassment if they're not playing in October with their $700 million outfield and the highest payroll. The Cubs are aggressive, and they can't stop now. And can the Mariners really survive their front office if they don't make another October? Quite the juxtaposition of teams in training camp with the Chiefs introducing Trey Smith and George Karlaftis today. Well, not introducing them, but introducing them with their new contracts with the media today. First guys that are going to be that talked besides Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes at camp. While at the same time, the Bengals owner is talking about Shamar Stewart, who's not at camp because of language, and Trey Hendrickson, who just left Ohio to go back to Florida because that's how close he thinks they are to a deal now.
Atrociously low. Double atrocious.
He thinks they're so close to a deal that he decided he's just going back to Florida, not even staying in Ohio in case a deal gets done so he can be at camp.
Everything seems to be going great for the Bengals.
Seems to be fine.
Somehow they got their second-round pick signed early, though.
That's a great point.
I don't get it.
Everybody, the Chiefs get Omar Norman-Lott signed on Saturday. The Bengals like, what are you guys worried about a second-round pick for? These things are easy. Our first one is a
have
tough
you
one.
watched the whole quarterback yet?
I've watched the first 2 episodes. I need to watch the more.
I'm not finished at all.
How far have you gotten?
Well, the Bengals are in trouble. They need to win all their games to make the playoffs.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they had a 1-4 start, I think.
Wasn't
That's
great.
tough.
Wasn't great. And
it's probably because Burrow was injured.
Kirk Cousins is throwing a lot of interceptions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's not benched yet.
He's about to get benched.
Benched.
He got benched during one game, and he's about to get benched.
Jared Goff, just managing that game.
Just doing it.
Just Goff out there just managing games. That's what he does, man. He's running that system.
Yeah, it's you won't get it would be. This is the Bengals offseason you'd like. This one.
Yeah,
for
sure. This is you're right about that. I wonder if they got.
You'd want that Hard Knocks offseason on this one.
Yeah, I know they're at the Bills.
Yeah,
they're in Buffalo this year, so the NFL has now opened it up. So I mean, they could have gone to Cincinnati for the Hard Knocks this year, because the NFL.
I'd like to hear those conversations about what do you mean we're not going to sign this guy?
Yeah, and Mike Brown saying, well, he wanted a pay raise, and we wanted to give him a pay raise. He wanted to get a raise, and we were going to give him a raise. It's just disagree on how he got that money.
This deal with the language on the first round pick stuff. I mean, there is truth to that. Okay, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that if you want to go all the way back when we used to have holdouts, language deals were what was the problem with John Tate.
Yeah.
In the Chiefs, they didn't want
language was also a problem when you held the phone up.
It was, but they didn't want. Ethan Locke, John Tate's agent, felt like that the Chiefs had control over how much money he was going to make because there was an inordinate amount of active roster bonus money for a first-round pick. Okay? So that meant, all right, well, let's say the guy, he didn't get to camp till September. What if they weren't going to have him active for the first 4 weeks? They didn't want to have like $100,000 on the line every week if they just said, no, you're not dressing this week. So that was their thing. And his point, the agents, was, what if he got in a car wreck? What if something happened? And then now all of a sudden, all this number you've built in here, he's never going to get. So they've come a long ways from that. But this little stuff that, Mike Brown's talking about, I get it. I mean, every contract should be written in a way that if something really horrible happens,
and I guess the
you
difference
shouldn't get it
is
done, but you just got to probably that should be in the uniform contract somehow.
Yeah, well, I guess the language that they've had in there is the year that the contract detrimental happens, you lose the guaranteed dollars that year. But the rest of the contract, each individual year has those guaranteed dollars that stay intact because you haven't had conduct detrimental to the team those years yet. Whereas the Bengals are trying to make it to where every year moving forward, any guaranteed dollars are no longer guaranteed.
If you make a mistake in year 2.
Year 1 of a 5-year deal, none of that money's guaranteed now moving forward.
And
year
what
2,
every player should say is, fine, put it in there. I'm not going to do anything detrimental.
Well, and Mike Brown's saying, well, we're arguing over something that's so minuscule and probably won't happen. Well, then why do you have to have it in there?
Because what if it did happen?
Right, and the player's saying, well, you're saying it's not going to happen. I agree it's not going to happen, so you shouldn't put it in there. Well, why don't you just sign it if it's not going to happen? Why do you have it in there if it's not going to happen?
I get the point on the player's side because, listen, these guys are targets. And I'm not saying they're all angels or anything, but there have been times where something looks like conduct detrimental, and maybe they didn't do anything, or maybe whatever. And what's your definition? Is the definition you got arrested and thrown in jail, or the definition you got accused of something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and that's it's just open-ended.
Open-ended. So
it's conduct detrimental.
I get that part of the arguing back and forth over it, but they are arguing about something where a player should be like, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah, I'm good. Let's sign the deal. Let me get my money. Let's get in there.
Protect yourself in case you don't do anything and someone says you did something and you don't get the money anymore. And Jerry's deal, I mean, he said it all. I mean, Michael Parson, It's hilarious. He called him Michael, right? Not Micah Parsons.
And he missed 6 games last year. Seriously, missed 6 games. He's missed 5 games in his entire career.
They were last year, though.
No, there were only 4 last year.
Only 4 last year.
He missed 4 last year and then 1 his rookie year. But it's like
so
he missed 6 games.
And then what he was talking about, Dak. Those numbers were wrong too. But he did get hurt. Whatever.
Yeah, right,
I mean, these things happen. You just don't say those things out loud.
Yeah.
Now, listen. He's the one who gave him the guaranteed deal. He's the one who bucked the way the rest of the NFL does these things. And now you got this old man standing up there just talking.
Mm-hmm.
Listen.
Every day. Is it back-to-back days where he said something about Micah Parsons that, you know what?
Michael Parsons.
Michael Parsons. Guys can get injured. And then this morning saying that, look, you can get in a car. You can get hit by a car.
Absolutely.
Seriously, you can get hit by a car.
Now what?
Which Drake pointed out that kind of could be taken as a threat to the person.
Yeah, it could be.
You can get hit by a car. Seriously, you could get hit by a car. Keep asking about Michael Parsons, and I'll let you know how many cars you can get hit by. I said this right before the break that with the Royals playing tonight and Seth Lugo pitching tomorrow, the Cubs are a team that is interested in Seth Lugo. Kelly and Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen for the Diamondbacks seem to be like and Sandy Alcantara seem to be the main names that are out there. Joe Ryan was a name that was out there over the weekend, but the Minnesota Twins apparently have come out and said that they're not interested in trading him. People can call.
You can say anything.
They are not shopping him, I guess is the way that you would put it.
Call me.
But last night, reading a couple of different things, I thought it was interesting that the name of Maikel Garcia showed up in 2 different places.
Mm-hmm.
That there's been some buzz in the industry that they would dangle either infielder Maikel Garcia or Jonathan India if they could land a power-hitting outfielder that they felt to be of equal value.
Are those just laying around somewhere?
Typically, you can just find somebody like that. And then also written by Jim Bowden about the New York Yankees saying, in terms of third base, the Yankees have been linked to Eugenio Suarez of the Diamondbacks, but there is concern about his defense. Other possible third base targets include Royals All-Star Maikel Garcia. Can you imagine if the Yankees trade for Maikel Garcia because they aren't getting enough production at third base that Jazz Chisholm plays?
That would
they
be hilarious.
bring in Maikel Garcia to take that spot. But then he points out that the Yankees have a plethora of outfielders. That they've got this dude that's in the minors, whatever his name is.
One of their guys.
Spencer Jones, that's hit 26 home runs in AAA. Well, he's hit 10 home runs in 16 games at AAA. Mm-hmm. And he hit 16 home runs at AA when he got moved up. 6'7", 240. Aaron Judge.
Sounds like Jack Caglione.
Yeah, that's right. Aaron Judge, and left-handed power hitter that has a lot of swing and miss. Mm-hmm. So, they got Jack Caglione. But they've got Dominguez and a couple of other guys in the outfield that it's like, would they be willing to move one of these outfielders for Maikel Garcia? But I would find it odd if somebody traded for Garcia to play third base and not trade for Garcia to give up real value, that the Royals would view this has to be matching value to move Garcia, but you're going to put him at third and not at shortstop,
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting hearing that name at 2 different places.
It's interesting that it's popped up because it was a little bit of a name, people have always kind of talked about for the last couple of years. Yeah. Somebody doesn't really have, he can't play shortstop here because Bobby's there. He's a really good player though, and that would be maybe not some trade that hurts, like trading away Will Myers before he got to the league or something, but he looks to me like a proven commodity at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you do that, you better be getting something of real value on that end, not just a couple of lottery tickets that could come through. So that one doesn't make as much sense to me because he's one of your good things on offense.
Because
if you take away one of your good things on offense, you better be bringing about something or 2 things as good as him or something way, way better.
But are you just moving things around? Like if you take Garcia away from third base, okay, well, somebody has to play third base. Well, now he's going to play left field. Okay, great. You got better at left field. You got better at left field or whoever you bring in. If you bring in somebody that bats exactly like Garcia to play left field, you're like, look how much better they are at left field. Okay, well, who's at third base? Well, India. Okay, well, who's at second base? So now the person you're bringing in at second base has to be that much better than the person you brought in that you lost in left field, because now you're just moving things around and you're still the same team, only you don't have Garcia, a younger guy that's playing next to Bobby at third base that's playing good defense. You've got an outfielder that may not be all that good at
I don't want to see the
left
Royals
field.
trade away Garcia.
it better be really good. If they're going to trade away Garcia, it better be a package of players that are like, we're getting a pitcher, we're getting an outfielder, and this team is desperate, and there's team control.
Then maybe a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Maybe some 18-year-old or something that could be something. But
like you never know what team is going to be desperate enough to do something stupid. Like, the Orioles last year that were desperate enough to do something dumb and trade for Trevor Rogers.
Mm-hmm. That's where
from
Stowers
Miami. That's
deal,
how they got
right, yeah.
Stowers. You need to make that run, and you give up Stowers.
If you
for
could
Trevor
do that,
Rogers.
that'd be good.
I mean, you get somebody like that's in return, and Stowers, by the way, has the most home runs since June 22nd in Major League Baseball, so he continues to add on. But that was a guy who was kind of a rental player. I mean, I know he's got last year and he's still got this year with Rogers, but you moved on from a guy that has been pretty damn good for the Rays, and they didn't really give up much for him. So I just wonder about the taking advantage of the trade deadline. And I wanted to read this real quick from Bob Nightingale at USA Today. And this is where I think it comes in with all of these teams that are looking for starting pitching. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different teams he talks about with starting pitching, and how you may be able to get more this trade deadline than some other years if you're selling. And you have a starting pitcher worth selling, like the Royals do with Seth Lugo. He writes about the Yankees. So the Yankees would love to acquire, third base starting pitcher. They have no choice but to be aggressive. Sitting home in October would be nothing short of disastrous. Toronto Blue Jays have all of Canada salivating with their first half performance. They have no choice but to do what it takes to get a starter, no matter the price. The Mets understand the embarrassment if they're not playing deep in October with a $765 million outfielder and the highest payroll in the game. The Chicago Cubs were aggressive during the winter, prying all-star outfielder Kyle Tucker and closer Ryan Pressly from the Astros. You can't stop now. And the Seattle Mariners, can they really go another season not playing in October without heads rolling in the Northwest? So he's pointing out 5 teams that need starters and saying every single one of these teams should be sort of desperate or aggressive to a degree, with a market that isn't really saturated with starters. And if that's the case, it would almost feel like the Chiefs wouldn't have a choice but to trade Seth Lugo. And Drake brought it up earlier. Why wouldn't the Cubs trade for Seth Lugo today?
You get him to pitch tomorrow.
You're going to have him pitch against you tomorrow as opposed to pitching for you tomorrow.
Audition.
They change his clubhouse.
Just an audition.
Yeah, I wish the Royals weren't in this position. I wish they were scoring all these runs before, but they're not. And so now we're in this position.
And by the way, they scored these runs, and it's not like they've won all these games.
Yeah, they're 2-2.
It's interesting. We talked about this the other day when we were in there for sound off. The Royals need to go 38-24 from the point on and now it's 37
and 24. Yeah.
It's 13 games over 500 just to get to 86.
Yeah.
And 86, I don't think this year.
Yeah, that's assuming 86 is going to get it done.
The average for both leagues in these wild card years is over 87. There's been a couple years where 86 did it, but a couple years when 89 did it. So if you do all the math together, it's over 87 wins. So that just maybe, and I heard this morning, they were talking on New Day, like if you went back to the 2014 Royals, they were 2 games under 500 at this point, whatever.
2.5 games out of the wild card,
something like that,
in 14.
In 14, but that team had a little different feel for it,
yeah.
I think, a little bit, because they had these young bats who had proven a little bit the year before, and whatever. This doesn't feel like that to me.
But even that year, the Royals didn't go out and go, you know what, we're 2.5 games out. Let's go and get difference makers on this team.
It was the most disappointing trade deadline ever.
Yeah.
They had a press conference and they said, we're standing pat. And everyone was like, what are you standing pat for?
Right, yeah. You got to go and do something to add to this team to go and help it to get to the World Series. They end up getting to the World Series, but they got like Willingham. And that was kind of it. And Fraser, Jason Fraser, and Josh Willingham.
Wasn't a lot, but the other players started playing better, and maybe this Royals bunch will start hitting a little bit. And if they do, if they score 12 runs, they're not going to lose another game this year.
I think that's right.
Now, since the break, if they score 7, they're 1-1. So that's not great, because I think they've only lost 3 games this year when they score 5 or more.
It's just a nutty stat.
But they just
don't do it.
They don't do it. It's I don't know. It's like 18 games or something where they've done that.
I had the
stat
at one point.
More of those.
I had the stat at one point of what their record was, and I'll find it as I continue to go back through my formats here. what the record was when they scored 4 or more runs?
Well, as you flip through,
I'm flipping through.
As you flip through, a little flip through news that that Jason isn't going to find interesting, but it's going to hit home for Todd. We've lost Ozzy Osbourne.
What?
He passed
just
away.
He just had
Just now.
the
Just now?
He just had the tribute concert.
Like 2 weeks ago.
Less than that. Was it 2 weeks? Feels like it was like 3 days ago.
It was 2 Saturdays ago.
Was it 2 Saturdays ago?
Well, I mean, they kind of all said, "Listen, he's just going to go die now." I mean, that's kind of like
Wow.
what Sharon said. Holy
Sharon.
smokes! What do you do that to me for? On the air?
Why
well,
did you
I
do
didn't
that?
want you to find out some other way.
How?
Why did you
What
do
other
that?
way?
Why did you do
Who's
that?
saying this?
And I
Who's
thought our
reporting
listeners
this?
needed to know.
Who's reporting this?
The listeners do need to know.
Sky News. Holy
I thought you were
smokes!
saying
They're
this
talking
guy.
about right there.
Just some guy. This guy is reporting it.
This guy.
This guy. That sucks.
I was out for a walk this morning, playing a little like rando playlist. Little Black Sabbath came up.
The Royals are now 34-8 when they score 4 or more runs in a game.
They should have scored more than 4 runs more than that.
34-8. What's crazier, that record or the fact that they've done that 42 times out of the 101 games they have played? I mean, 40% of the games they have played, they've scored at least 4 runs. Is crazy to think about. But Ozzy Osbourne has passed away, and
now I'm all sad.
I know. 2 weeks after that crazy concert.
Great concert.
Yeah, I know. Was that a pay-per-view event?
It was. They raised like $50-some million for Parkinson's research and stuff. He's got Parkinson's for the last like 5 years, and it was like $29 or pounds or whatever they were calling it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There was like 2 million people paid the money. I mean, lots of people just watched little bits of thing. I found it somewhere for a while, and I was busy that day.
Front Row Sports.
Yeah.
.eu or something.
It was just go to TikTok and someone was holding their phone up. I watched several songs like that.
Were they allowed people to?
Not for long. They would get
I was
shut
gonna
down.
say,
They
then
had
you had to
some
go
people
find
out there.
somebody else.
You had to find another one. But yeah, that's that makes me sad. I just the other day I rewatched this Randy Rhoads documentary, who played guitar on Ozzy's first 2 solo albums. Now I'm all sad. Drake, are we going to take a break or something?
Yeah, let's take a break.
You just got me sad.
Let's take a break.
Damn it, Drake.
Todd will try to recover. I don't know that that's going to be the case here in the next 5 minutes to be able to
I'll
recover
be
from that
okay.
news. You'll be okay. I mean, look, he lived a great life.
He lived
it's
amazing to live to be 76.
Yeah, no kidding. He probably lived 10 more lives than some people that lived to be 80 or 90. And just like 76 years of Ozzy Osbourne's life. It's like 4 or 5 different lifetimes. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
been in the Hall of Fame twice or something already. Probably
Yeah.
for rock and roll.
I bet he's been in
solo.
I bet a lot of Hall of Fames he's probably in, right?
He's a lot of things.
Yeah, like Mike Swanson's in like 4 Hall of Fames, right?
Mike Swanson is like Ozzy.
Yeah, he's in like 4 or 5. I've always said Mike Swanson is the Ozzy Osbourne of Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
the Prince of Darkness.
You got a room named after him out there.
That's right. That's right. When it's dark at night, he's the prince that goes and gets people, the players that you want to talk to.
Doesn't have to do it anymore, though.
You know, that's
Swanee's
what he was.
happy.
That's what he was.
Playing a lot of golf. That's what he's doing.
I hope so,
Good
man.
for him.
I hope he's enjoying that. A lot of golf. We heard from Mark Donovan this morning. We heard from Andy Reid. We heard from Patrick Mahomes, George Karlaftis, and Trey Smith at the press conference there. Did you hear anything new from Mark Donovan?
The one thing that kind of just popped out to me that John Sherman has said multiple times, we are not playing baseball at the Truman Sports Complex when this lease is up.
Yeah.
He has said that. And then so Donovan, when they were talking about the Royals' effect on this,
Yeah.
he was like, well, it has an effect on them because if they wanted to start renovating something, the Royals would be playing games and or whatever. And then he was kind of like just, if they had to extend their lease and were there longer than they wanted to be, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. And then he was like, well, if they stay at the Truman Sports Complex, then what do we do at that point? I'm like, stay? Like, they're not staying. Like, unless he was just throwing out, here are all the different
if it
things
takes
that we
them
have
a year or something. Like,
yeah.
like theoretically, I guess if they just didn't get everything done in time and they had to stay for an extra year, you could add that on the lease or something. But listen, if they're building a stadium in Johnson County, I don't think Jackson County is going to be like, yeah, sure.
Stay an extra year.
Stay an extra year for $1 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be the case. They might be like, y'all get out of here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
That's why
that
the
one
A's are in Sacramento.
That's just why that one just kind of popped up to me like.
We played that earlier. It was like a 4-minute Q&A.
Big long chunk, yeah.
There's also a shorter chunk we have in there, but I hadn't heard him talk and bring that up before.
I've never heard anyone on the Royals say anything about any possibility. John Sherman has been adamant. We are not playing baseball in this facility after the lease is up.
Lease expires. We won't be at the K.
Yeah, and I don't think they will.
But won't be at the K.
But it was just a weird little thing that kind of popped up on it there.
And I wonder, like when I talked about it after we played the clip, I'm like, I just wonder if he's just there and he's presenting all different parts of how the Royals and the Chiefs are sort of connected at this time and what the different decisions are. And hey, we've got a plan for A, if the Royals are gone and now everything's separate, if we're going to be at Arrowhead and renovating, or B, if we're going to head to Kansas, or C, what if the Royals head to Kansas? Well, that doesn't affect us. D, what if the Royals are staying there and they extend? Just all these different scenarios, I guess, that, hey, we've got to be prepared for everything. But it's the first time I've heard somebody mention that, because we are getting to the point where if you're going to have a stadium built by the time the lease is up, you probably need to figure out where you're even going to be before we even get to the point of what the financing is going to be, before they even put it on the ballot to see if somebody will vote for it. And if they don't vote for it, now you're pushing everything back a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't think the Royals are going to be on any ballots. Man, maybe they will be. Clay County could be on the ballot.
I don't think they'd want to be on I guess they could be on the ballot in Clay County, but is there a way to be on the ballot? And if that doesn't pass, then you can still find a way to build there in North Kansas City. And if you could, then why be on the ballot to begin with?
Well, that's the hard part, too. And we asked Mark Donovan this a couple of weeks ago, when he had his availability at Arrowhead, when they were, on the Nebraska-Cincinnati game. We had a chance to ask a couple questions. But, he told us on the timeline that they're not going to probably be able to get on the November ballot. So Jackson County, if they're renovating, Jackson County, which puts you to April. And so I asked him, you make it to April, what if it would have been passed? Well, that'd be a bad situation for everybody.
Yeah, it was a very quick 5-second answer.
And I'm like, so, that's the thing for me when I look at all of this stuff. And I do believe there's lots of confidence. The Royals have confidence. They've got good polling in Clay County that said that they could maybe pass it. The Chiefs feel like, the Royals were the reason it didn't pass in Jackson County, although there are plenty of people who didn't like their plans.
Yeah.
So maybe they voted no on the plan, too. Said today they're spicing those up. I don't know if it's going to be a renovation.
And there were plenty of people that said once they heard Mark Donovan say, "Well, then we can leave," meaning go to Kansas. They're like, "Well, you're not gonna threaten me. I'm going to vote no based on principle alone."
So, the path to not have to have your hands, your fate in the hands of some voters. And by the way, if this is some election next April, this isn't 1 million people coming out to vote, okay? It's a small number of people would decide whether or not you're going to be in this stadium or that stadium or whatever.
And they've already tried April last year.
And if you don't want to have to fret about that and spend several $1 million getting the vote out and doing all these things and doing all that stuff, the simple thing is just to go to where they're going to just give you the money. Now, they're not just giving it to you. There are star bonds, and the bonds have to be sold, and all of those things have to happen. But you're not – it's already passed through the legislature. I've asked that question more than once to multiple people. Why not just take the quote-unquote easier thing? Their answers have always been, well, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other things that have to happen. There will be lawsuits if the Royals are coming to Hesperia because they've got entanglements on who owns the property and who owns the debt and all. There's stuff. There are plenty of companies who are there who have leases. I mean, this is not simple. Just like it wasn't going to be simple to move to the Crossroads. They were out there trying to get like letters of intent to buy people's property. If we pass the thing, we'll sell you the property and all. It wasn't easy. There are people, if they move out to the Speedway and the places we keep hearing about the Speedway's a big area.
Yeah.
But there's a pretty good chunk of land outside the backstretch of the Speedway near Hollywood Casino, in between there and the old Cerner building, which now says Farmers on it. That's a big chunk of land.
Yeah.
It's pretty hilly, but you'd have to move stuff around. But there's question. That's where the RV parking is for, Kansas Speedway. There's enough room to put a football stadium there. There's all that. But who's doing what part of it? Do we need to do a little work on the frontage roads? Do we need to do parking lots? There's lots of parts of it. So nothing's easy. Okay,
well, that's like when Ty Masterson was on with us, and he said, the arbitrary deadline is January 1st, 2026. The actual deadline is June 30th, 2026, but the arbitrary deadline, January 1st, 2026.
And that is not even really
And that's not even really a deadline because
he told you 60 to 90 days, right?
Yeah, because he was like, look, once June 1st got here, we knew we were going to have to extend it because there wasn't enough time to then figure out what we were doing, where it was going to go, all of the different potential and minutia and the details that they have to come to. That essentially you're looking at like October, that they're going to have to figure something out in October. And if they haven't done the star bonds and said yes to the star bonds in October or, November, then Kansas might just be moving on. And now the Chiefs are going to be going to Jackson County in April and saying, we'd like to either extend this 3/8 cent tax or a new one once this expires and the lease expires.
Or hey, the other option is how about this? Spend more money out of your own pocket.
That'd be fine too.
Which is what a lot of people who voted no.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Right.
No. Because in the end, it's a pretty small portion of the thing. The money that comes from Jackson County is significant to you and I, not out of our pocketbooks on what we spend there, but like you total it all together, you'd be, that's a whole lot of money. It's not a whole lot of money when you're talking about, $1 billion renovation project. It's not the biggest chunk of that money. It would be, that's the state's going to be, maybe $500 million, and the Chiefs would be close to that. No, so it's not that much. But a lot of folks are like, how about you just pay for that yourselves? Yeah. There's a lot of people who feel that way.
Absolutely.
In 2024, they said that with the vote, and even now they will. I was watching part of the this was the Missouri Senate when they were talking on the floor about things, and this guy got up from St. Louis or something, and you can get up and read whatever you'd like to read. He was reading about how like SoFi got built without any any state money. That's California. They're tough luck. You're not. It's the second biggest city in America, and the real estate's worth a lot. And the guy who did all that got some tax benefit and things like that, but he didn't get money from the state. It's just not apples to apples on that. You need to compare Kansas City to how they work it in Cincinnati or in
Nashville,
Buffalo, Nashville, places like that. It's just it's a different deal.
Because there's going to be a place that will offer that to them. And that's the part about like, well, no, it's you shouldn't have to pay for that for the billionaires. All right, I get it. I understand it. But you're also, what you're giving the billionaires is a higher valuation of their team. You're not giving the money to the billionaires. In theory, with the renovation, you're giving the money to the people that are building it. You're giving the money to the people that are actually going and
constructing it.
The construction
companies,
firms.
All that stuff, yeah.
That's who's getting the money. But at the end of that, having that stadium increases the valuation, which means if they sell the team, now they're worth billions more. The owner for the Marlins, before he sold 5 years ago when he told the city of Miami that if you vote for this new stadium, I will not sell. They voted for the new stadium. They approved it. The valuation went up by $2 billion, and he sold immediately. So they did give him money in terms of what he got back from somebody that was purchasing the team. But that person that purchased the team that is now the owner of the Marlins is still playing in that stadium.
Yeah.
They didn't build the stadium and then he sold the team and then he took the stadium with him.
Each one of these things is different too, like who owns the stadium. In
right.
Jackson County, the way it works is, someone was texting me a while back going, if the Royals were gone, the Chiefs would have all that land there. Chiefs own nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
They don't own one thing out there. You can go to the Jackson County plat map. They don't own anything. Jackson County owns all of it. The part to the south across whatever they call that road there, it's Raytown Road. It turns into something else. That's actually owned by Kansas City, Missouri. So there's a lot of just the kind of messy floodplain kind of stuff there.
Yeah.
They don't own anything out there. They don't own the practice facility. They don't own anything. Everything on the official county map is owned by the county. That's not always the case at everyone, but that's the way it works here. And I think it would be the same thing with the Star Bonds thing. I don't know if Wyandotte County would own, or the state of Kansas or whatever would own whatever gets built out there.
Tom Masterson said that the state is not going to be in the business of owning anything.
There would
with
be
the stadium.
a complex authority.
So it
then,
would have to be something, exactly, a complex authority, something with the county, something with the city. But he said Kansas, as the state, is not going to have any hand in owning anything to do with the stadium that's going to be built on the Kansas side as part of Star Bonds. Nope, no, we're gonna work with the Star Bonds,
honestly,
but we're not going to be on the hook for
anything. Maybe
anything.
it'd be better for the organizations to own the money or own the places, and then you wouldn't get stuck with, all these things. Cincinnati's mess right now. The Royals and Chiefs have both had this. The maintenance, repair, and operational costs that they get in there, and those things just keep going up, and the county's always, responsible for that. Maybe it should be the team responsible for it.
That's what I just wonder.
There's no perfect way to do this.
And I just wonder about, like, when you renovate Arrowhead, are we going to have this conversation 20 years from now? I mean, you go in and you renovate, and
1,000% they will.
Hey, 20 years, hey, we need this extra money to renovate. Kaufman's got concrete cancer. Arrowhead apparently doesn't, so they got a different batch of concrete. So, does that then start to erode even after
ask
this
Mark Donovan,
$1 billion renovation?
Not when we were interviewing him last week. I said, they've dug up a pretty good chunk of stuff in there. I'm like,
at Arrowhead?
Yeah, because they had, they moved 10 rows back.
Oh, that's right, because of the soccer renovation.
So I'm like, did you find good things or bad things in there? And he said some of both. They found some things that were like, okay, but then after that, they put those foundations in 1971-ish probably, and nobody really knows what was down there when they did it. So they dug in there because there's on that side of the stadium where they took all the rows out on the visitor side of the stadium because the Chiefs tunnel that you see the players go down right behind the 50-yard line, they didn't take those seats out because that's a complicated thing right there.
Right there. Yeah,
so all the seats there's no tunnel over there, so that's where the seats got taken out.
Did they take anything out from the end zones too?
No,
or
it just
the side.
It just kind of goes to the side to right about the corners. It took about 10 rows out. Now they're already back in.
Yeah.
And so it will look no different to the naked eye. The seats are a little newer looking because they're different seats, and there's metal under them instead of concrete because they can be moved.
Yeah, we got to move them out when the soccer is going to be played there.
And they probably have to move them out to grow the grass and all that. So they'll just put them back and forth. That's why they wanted to get the field and everything all done.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's a 2-year thing. So, they found some things down there. Yeah, this is something we could work with because you saw the plans, and the plans could be different. They want to tear out like that whole side of the stadium and put a monstrous club down there and then, put the seats back up over the top of it. So they found some things they could work with down there. And they found something, wow, look at this. Well, this is some bedrock right here.
Yeah. And they've gone from $800 million to $1.15 billion.
Because there's already a big tunnel that goes between the two stadiums. It's kind of like a T shape underneath there. If you ever drive in there where Lot M is, where Lot B is where the TV trucks are.
Yeah.
There's a tunnel that goes down. It's a little closer to Arrowhead than it is to the K. But you go in there and you turn right and you go to the K. You turn left and you go to Arrowhead. So there's a tunnel in between Lot M. So they know what's down in the tunnel part of it. They don't know what's right down under those seats because that tunnel it takes you to the stadium because of the kind of concourse level. So it's a little different deal.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Chiefs talk this morning at camp. Observations from camp. Josh Simmons starting at left tackle with the ones. Jalen Moore on the right side. Kingsley at left guard. Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice picking up where they left off last year. Xavier Worthy, a big downfield play because, they're going to start pushing the ball down the field, we are told. We'll take a timeout. Come back. More Zone next. News of the day. Ozzy Osbourne passes away just a couple of weeks after the farewell concert. It was farewell for the band and
no doubt
for Ozzy as well. So sad news for the
Wild
Prince of
thing
Darkness.
is, everyone from Black Sabbath was alive until just today.
That is, boy, that people would have lost a lot of money. There was a lot of bets that people had to pay up post 2000.
Some
These
people
guys
are
aren't going to be
they're
alive.
just built different.
These guys won't be alive in the 21st century.
Yeah.
No chance. All right, here's your money. They're not going to be alive 10 years from now, though. I'll double down, double or nothing. They won't be here in 2020, triple or nothing.
Bang.
Yeah, and they were right about 2030, I guess.
Well, let's hope nobody else from Black
Yeah,
Sabbath
let's hope.
dies today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today, yeah. Well, I think as Andy said, you're not going to be able to play and be around forever.
That's true.
Nobody can. Travis Kelce isn't going to play forever. Andy Reid's not going to coach forever. They're going to have to step aside and retire at some point. And maybe this is
Don't be
Travis's
bringing
last
everybody
year.
down.
I know. Maybe this is Travis's last year. If it is, he went for the long hair.
For now.
Went for the fluffy
he
long.
still cuts that out, every once in a while.
He's bringing back the 80s. You know what I mean? The Ozzy. Maybe it's
He
in
had
tribute.
those years. A lot of times he has hair in camp, and then right before the season,
Yeah.
they cut it down or
Well,
something.
he had the El Travador a couple of years ago when he had the
He'll go
mustache,
yeah.
just the mustache. And that's when he, 2 years ago, that's when he was kind of reckless at training camp when he was fighting everybody.
Yeah.
That was
Don't be
was
punching
odd.
the ball out of here.
Yeah, right. I mean, was it the bump?
Yeah.
Is that what we call it? The
Jack
bump?
Cochran or somebody?
Oh, yeah. And then Brian Cook, I think, was involved, and, a couple of others. It's like, yeah, okay. And then, of course, Kadarius Toney was involved in a couple as well. Odd that
I thought he'd still be playing forever.
Odd that the offense went over to the defensive side on that one. That was weird how they did that.
Happens.
That was a little too far for those guys. It was a little too extreme on that one. But news of the day with the Kansas City Chiefs. First practice today. Josh Simmons at left tackle. I really would have loved to see who the ones would have been if Jawan Taylor was healthy. Because I think it made perfect sense that Jawan Taylor's out. You put Jalen Moore over there. That guy's played different. That guy's played right tackle. He's played left tackle in the NFL. He's bounced around as a backup. Okay, he can go over to right tackle. You're not going to mess around with Josh Simmons. You're going to keep him at left tackle. That's what he's played. That's what you drafted him for. That's what he's been rehabbing for, is to play left tackle. You're not going to put him over on the right side. You put Jalen Moore there. Would be interested if Jawan Taylor was healthy. Is Jalen Moore the starting left tackle, or is it Josh Simmons? I would hope.
We'll never know.
I'd hope it'd still be Josh Simmons. And I hope that however long Jawan Taylor is out, that Josh Simmons can prove that he's good enough to play at that spot, because that would be the best for the Kansas City Chiefs if he's good enough to play.
He's got a chance to
plays
be,
well.
one of the most fortuitous kind of draft picks they will ever have.
Yep.
If, he's healthy and as good as they all think he can be, that'll be pretty amazing. We'll have to just wait and see what happens, though. But so far, so good,
Yeah.
We'll get up there, and, they didn't do much today.
No.
They'll get the pads
And Andy
on.
even
get
said,
after a
like,
little bit.
he looked fine, but, there's a lot he can improve on still, Where were you June 15th, 2005, Todd? June 15th, 2005.
That would be my daughter's birthday.
Okay, so
She
know
would have been
exactly what you were
turning,
doing then.
6. Big one.
Okay,
I don't know what I was doing.
What were you guys doing at your daughter's 6-year-old birthday? Now you got to go back and find pictures.
I don't know. Probably wasn't. Probably birthday wasn't on that date, unless it was a weekend.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
was it? What should I have known?
Well, that was Rich Hill's debut.
Oh,
that was when Rich Hill, your daughter turned 6 on Rich Hill's debut in June 15th, 2005.
Who knew?
Yeah, at that point, I was 6 weeks away from moving to Wyoming.
Oh.
I hadn't even moved to Wyoming. I think I may have just gotten the job in Wyoming
Well,
at
I
that
might
time.
have been over there. I was at the Wendy's. It's a credit union now. When the guy called me and I gave you a nice, recommendation.
Thanks
for
a
the
lot,
job.
Todd.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Sorry, buddy.
If they never paid you, can you consider it a
He
job?
got some money.
You got post.
Okay.
Post. And that just went to the people that wanted the money to begin with.
But you
Hey,
had it for a second.
You owe us that. Yeah, but I don't have it. But it doesn't matter. But no, I'm getting it. Yeah, I don't care. I need it. The money, or you've got to move out. Is that how it works?
I don't know.
Huh.
Sorry, I helped you get that job.
That's fine. It was an experience. You know what?
It really was.
It was an experience.
It really was.
If I was in a different part of my life, I might have enjoyed it more.
Well, that's the time to do
calm, Yeah, being 25 years old and a bachelor. Let me move to Wyoming where there's 2,000 people there. It's seeing 12 antelope on my 6-minute drive to work. It's look, a lot of people would love that.
Never hit me though.
No.
Good.
They stopped at the crosswalks too. They're smart.